Double biceps, it is in the contract a legal requirement every single time we appear on camera. We'll get those biceps out there. There we go. You can't not see that. There you go. That's it. They are. The lawyers are happy. They are satisfied. They have seen. There has been 2 biceps that have been seen. You can tick the box. The man to my left and to your right, it is in fact the co-pilot, the co-breather of air in this very room, the co-wearer of clothes. It is in fact the master of disaster, the king of sting, the Count of Monte Cristo. It is Thunderlips, the ultimate male. I knew I was going to go on that one. I was like, don't laugh. And it got me again. It is, in fact, the winner of the Dave Stockbridge of the Year Award. I was like, don't watch him. You are up on the screen. There it is, the Dave Stockbridge of the Year Award, the illustrious award held by the illustrious man with the illustrious beard. It is, in fact, your friend and mine. It is Dave Stockbridge. Stockbridge, welcome to the AWE podcast.
Oh, I'm excited, Hollywood, mate. Connelly, it's been a very, very big week in the world of AWE and in the world of arm wrestling as well. So we'll get to all of those hot topics very, very soon. A very warm welcome to you all for joining us here in AWE. And thank you very much for our most engaged with week on Instagram since the beginning of AWE all those months ago. Our page now reaching over, Instagram now reaching over 38,000 people.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. And all from about 770 page followers. So, and just another little AWE statistic that I'll share with you today is that not only did we get 770 Instagram followers, but on exactly the same day, we hit 770 YouTube subscribers there. So I don't know if they're the same 770.
Same.
They're identical people. There's 770 of you out there that are subscribing and following the pages, and we thank you very much for that, of course. And big week, of course. The hot topic of discussion today is PEDs and arm wrestling. Of course, it's one of those matters of controversy that most want to skirt around and don't want to directly address, but we're going to get into all of that today. Josh Barker, thank you very much. Josh Barker, hope you're well. Hope you're recovering well as well. How is the elbow going? Certainly let us know all about that. But interesting that Josh jumps into the chat because he was one of the hot topics of conversation, having had his fight announced this week on the AWE Instagram page.
That's right. Yeah. Absolutely. There for sure. I'll just quickly say hello here to Azend, who says, "How am I supposed to greet Dave Stockbridge the same way when you keep adding more things to his very warm welcome?" This is part of the fun for me, is that I keep adding little bits and pieces. So it's just like little things over time. I mean, it just started with like when we first started doing the show a few years ago.
It started with my name.
Yeah, it was like, and you know, I think I was calling you the real estate mogul. It was the real estate mogul. And then it just evolved to just silly things, and I just kept adding things. And there was a very nice list of the Rocky. So it was Apollo Creed, and he had a really long list of nicknames.
Very impressive,
yes, and it was like
an announcer's dream.
Absolutely, and it was about 10 different names, and of those that I could remember off the top of my head, that it's the Master of Disaster, the King of Sting, Count of Monte Cristo. I'm like, yeah, it's perfect, and I'm going to say all of them, and then I could only remember 4.
But over time,
yeah, that's right. And we keep adding. I love the Dave Stockbridge of the Year Award. That's one of my favorites.
and of course, Hollywood Matt Connelly is the man that bestowed me with this trophy, of course. So it does hold a very, very special place in my heart. And having won that 45 of the last 48 years, I'm extremely proud, because you applied the prize retrospectively to all but the 2 years. I think there was 1992 and 1997 where I missed out to Vincent Ronaldo.
Yes.
He had he was very big in the 80s,
in
the early 90s, wasn't he? He won Salon of the Year. In Australia for
like 80 years.
80 years in a row. Yeah, just amazing. Considering the award had only been going for about 20. It was quite an accomplishment.
Was the hair machine.
And of course, Vince Colosimo, who back in the 1990s was a very, very popular Australian actor. I think he might have got a silver logie
Mm.
for best supporting actor.
That's right.
At some
The
point in
Wog Boy,
time.
was it?
And it might have been for Wog Boy, but of course that performance and more was enough for him to secure the Dave Stockbridge of the Year
It was.
award.
But
the
you got
same
the
year.
gold logie that year.
Well, that year that one made up for it.
Right, yeah.
So by taking it out and just out of spite, he nominated for the Dave Stockbridge of the Year award and snaffled it, which is a bit disappointing because my mum's the only judge.
That's right.
So,
it is weird, yeah. But the great thing was we had a couple of the SA Titans members in on Sunday night to do a podcast.
They didn't
saw
touch it. Oh, they saw it?
I showed it to them.
Oh, good.
They might have touched it. But I said, here's the Dave Stockbridge of the Year award. And then I think Jack Smeaton, the leader, the man in the red shirt, he's going, oh, it actually says the date. And then he's like, he lost it.
So Jack may have missed out on some of the earlier episodes of our podcast and not been aware of
who's Vincent Ronaldo.
It does say some explaining, and of course for those people that are overseas, it's all the more confusing. So we thank you for hanging in there on the AWE podcast and Fox 8 Ball, huge troops. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Love
Fox
it.
8 Ball, did your cat come home? That's the big topic of discussion at the moment is Fox 8 Ball's cat did go missing.
Yeah, I couldn't sleep for days.
Yeah, well, I just found out about it yesterday and don't know if it has come back yet, but we shall wait and see. Hopefully it has. But
Stay tuned for that news and more in the world from the world of arm wrestling.
it is important.
Greeting Couch Happel all the way from Denmark, the Great Dane. He's dropped into the chat. Hope you and the family are going great, and they are. We've had some little issues at home. My mother-in-law had a bit of a tumble on the weekend, so she's been in and out of hospital, but we're all doing well now that the mother-in-law's dying. Things are going up.
She's looking off.
So Brandon Chan, who was on this very podcast just a matter of days ago, joined you here at the big desk. Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening to you, Brandon. You did a fantastic job on the podcast. Maybe you'll be in line for the Dave Stockbridge of the Year award if you keep up with performances like that. And Jack Smeaton, the leader, the man that we were talking about. We all have aspirations, Jack. First, you got to beat me on right, and then that's the first qualification.
That's the first challenge.
Indeed.
Shots have been fired. But today's conversation, Levan Sagashinvili's liver, aptly
inflamed, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's it. Says drugs are cool. Well, there you go. That is the point of the discussion for today. So performance enhancing drugs, absolutely, are very prevalent in every single sport that's out there, even tennis and golf. I'm serious.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah. But it's
the start of testing much in golf?
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, they probably do. I don't know.
I'm not sure. There's millions of dollars getting around.
There is. When there's money and fame to be had, any sort of glory, that people will do absolutely everything and anything to get that.
Yeah.
And that's what you see with competition. As soon as you say somebody, here's the challenge, and they say, well, I can actually get a little bit stronger, I can recover a bit quicker, I can get faster, I can get better using these substances, and maybe they'll do it. And you still see that across the world, and especially in combat sports. And there is that argument there, and especially probably for MMA, I'd say that danger element is there. If somebody has extra power that they can throw to their punches, or they've got cardio that they wouldn't have, is it a danger to their opponent that, they've got an unfair advantage or that sort of thing?
Well, I guess so. The easiest way to address this situation is to say very, very plainly that in an ideal world, you would have the very best testing regime in place, and you would spend inordinate amounts of money on that regime to ensure that, and in as much as science can be exacting, you would know who is on PEDs and who is not. Now, one of the great dilemmas, of course, is the
people who are not on it to get on it.
Yes, and then everybody's on an level playing field. So, one of the big dilemmas, of course, is that there's not enough money in the sport to be able to do this on a regional level, and when you start talking about the promotions, a lot of these athletes might be getting, say at the bottom of the card, not that much money.
Yeah.
And
If at all.
if at all. And even at the top end of the card, it's not like they're a golfer and getting millions of dollars for winning. And so, at this stage, I guess, as promoters, we want to ensure that as much money as possible is going into the pocket of the athletes, rather than going to a $5,000 test to a SADA or something along those lines. But for as long as those lines are blurred and that you can't definitely know, you're in the hands of the athletes to have those discussions about these things. So
it is an interesting point of discussion, and I think for this, my overall view of where arm wrestling sits at this point in time is that you're not going to get testing. You're not going to get testing that is across the board. It's too expensive. It's not practical, and people are just going to avoid the organizations that do it. If they're using, which they more than likely are, the top guys in the world are all onto something.
Are they really?
Well, I would be very surprised if anybody in the top 50 is not using something.
Top 50,
I'd say so. Yeah,
okay.
yeah, absolutely. But
maybe we'll go through a natty or not list in a little while, and maybe you guys can drop those thoughts into who isn't using. Maybe the easier one if you've got a name in there. And of course, when we are looking at that list, it's not just what we're thinking in terms of steroids, but it's also marijuana use. It can be some medication. It can be anti-inflammatories. There's a whole range of SARMs as well. You'll speak to guys who will claim natty who are using SARMs and maybe SARMs. Maybe there's, I don't know, some credence to that. I'm not exactly sure as to the science with it all, but from what I do know is that those guys that are using certain SARMs are getting some outstanding results. And is that cheating? But from what I understand, a lot of those substances are also on the banned substance list. So guys that are maybe not thinking they're juicing, but they're on the SARMs instead. Well, guess what? You're going to flag. You're out. So
I did see an argument a while ago, which was quite interesting, and it was saying, okay, well, if you're saying all these substances are not natural, and therefore you shouldn't be able to use them in competition. Well, here's something that's not natural: training. Having the best access to the best coaches, best training partners, best equipment and facilities gives you an advantage. That's why you see the richest countries in the world are winning the Olympics. They've got the ability to send their athletes, and then B, they've got the ability to train in the world-class facilities with world-class opponents and coaches, and dedicate
money is a PED.
It's a PED. It's like Batman.
Yeah, vitamin M. So do we ban money out of the sport to really make it? Because if we get rid of
all the money in arm wrestling,
we remove the incentive. Maybe
massive amount of money that's available in arm wrestling. Get rid of that.
Get rid of that pot of gold. They'll send them all straight and onto the natty list.
Yeah.
So
I don't think at this point in time the testing is something that it should be a priority for arm wrestling.
Okay.
I don't think so.
I want everybody to be tested, all of them. I want to know.
And if you test negative, you need to talk to your dealer.
Yeah, that's right. You need to upgrade your dealer. So go somewhere different in Thailand. Wrong store. So Cowchapel, he left a little good topic to discuss. The usage. Thank you very much. We thought we'd bring it up. Not many people want to talk about it, but of course you've got amateur organisations. So you've got WAF, which is they're trying to they do test. And so, and at a regional level, they're testing. So, they're going that road at an amateur level, which is strange because there's hardly any money in the sport as it is, let alone at an amateur level. Yet instead of investing the money into, I don't know, building the clubs up, maybe getting some extra arm wrestling tables out there, getting better coaching and assistance, maybe some guidance for these guys so that the clubs can better market themselves. You would think that maybe some of these governing bodies and organizations that have the honor and privilege of guiding the sport in these years would think that that's a good use of resources. Let's help the clubs at a grassroots level. Let's make sure that there's arm wrestling tables in playgrounds around the country. Let's make sure that more and more people know about arm wrestling through excellent marketing. but no, they're concentrating on drug testing. So very, very interesting because it's bloody expensive.
It is,
and I would say that there would be almost more money spent on the testing than what there is on the events themselves. So
yeah, it is a very expensive. It's one of the detriments of. Sorry, are you?
Yeah, it's only Matt's biceps that are on PEDs. The rest of him's natty. So it's just
here.
really just that bicep peak.
That's why you got the double bicep.
This bit, no, that's all natural. This little bit here, on the other hand, no.
That's where they all go.
Yeah, right to that point. Yeah. So just trying to be honest with you.
Wow.
Now's the time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that's it. Well, this is Swisher Sweet's favorite topic, apparently. It's it's one of those things that
and Swisher Sweet, what's your thoughts on the subject? What do you think? Should the sport be pure natty? Should it be enhanced? What do we do? What do we do as a sport? You share your thoughts with us.
It's all down to you, Swisher Sweet. No pressure.
We're just doing whatever you say. So thank you, Arm Wrestling, aka Taran the Tyrannosaurus, the giant killer. He is in the chat, of course, an AWE superstar. Missed the first 5 minutes, currently watching at 1.5 just to speed up. Excellent. We'll hold it here now for you and
just talk really slow.
Just give you a chance to get there, mate. So we'll see you in about 3 minutes time.
That's right. And as Swisher Sweet points out, even beta blockers are a potential performance enhancing. Well, not potential; they are a performance enhancing drug. There was a fantastic documentary that came out maybe 15 years ago called "Bigger, Stronger, Faster." I don't know if you've seen that one or not, but you can see it on YouTube for free now as well. And they sort of went in depth on this topic in terms of sports and in terms of the message that was sent in like the 80s and 90s by it's like Hulk Hogan. Eat the vitamins, say your prayers, believe in yourself, and you can look like me.
Yeah.
It was like. What about the performance of the drugs that you're also using? The fact you're training, in the gym every single day, and you all that side. Oh no, it's not this. It's the other stuff I said.
Yeah.
Yes. But it is an interesting topic, and one of the things they did in that documentary about beta blockers. So essentially, what they do is they make you so your heart rate can't increase. Like it slows your heart rate down, and it has been used in the Olympics with the guys that shoot the clay targets, so that they don't get, because when your heart beats, you slightly get like can
pulse,
put you off a little bit,
yeah.
And so people were using beta blockers to slow their heart rate down. A, less nervous. B, they're not getting as much of a pulse from their heartbeat. But people were talking about how they would be going in for an audition for a musical instrument or for an acting audition, and they're like, I'm taking a beta blocker to be able to relax, be able to calm my nerves, not get that adrenaline dump when I go in there and like be all nervous and trying to talk, and my hands are shaking, my voice is shaking. So
like this now.
Yeah, that's right. But is that a performance enhancing?
100% it is. Well, it is enhancing the performance,
exactly.
Isn't it? It's making it easier for the subject in order to produce the desired result. And I guess if we're talking about all of those things, where do you draw the line? And obviously, SADA and the various sporting bodies have drawn the line, and the line, it means a list this long. And
it's like 58 pages long. It's insane.
Ivory J is the only natural arm wrestler ever in the world. This is what we've also heard. Yeah,
he's the only one. Everyone else.
Is it?
You go to your local club, everybody's there using. Apparently, according to there are some top level guys that have said, I am natural, I've never taken anything, and if they are, great.
I always take people on face value. If you're on, you're on. If you're not, or if you've used in the past, whatever you want to tell me is fine by me. I don't really hold any judgment.
What if they tell you as they're injecting?
Then I'll think twice. I'll think twice about maybe the opinion. So, but I think people have a responsibility to themselves in order to make sure that they're looking after themselves, that they're not abusing anything that's going to be detrimental to their health in the medium to long term. And then I hear from friends, there's arguments that weight training in itself can be one of those things that you can be doing it with all the best of intentions, and then there's that diminishing returns, and at some point it's going to lead to something bad down the road. So Where are those lines? Are they in the sand, and are they quickly being taken in by the tide? It's hard to know.
Should we talk about the UFC for 1 second? Because I never do that.
Sure.
I love how you're like, yeah, all right, fine. That's because I know everything about how the sport went and their evolution. And in terms of the way that they went about their drug testing, is quite relevant to this conversation. And I do agree with the way that they
didn't test. They just gave them more.
They did. Well, they didn't test for a very long time. And
Peter Belford looked his best, didn't he?
TRT. Well, he was in the testing era. But he was using a manipulate, a workaround, testosterone replacement therapy, which
isn't steroids at all.
No, it is, but
no,
but it's legal, sort of.
It something else.
Something
else. It's just to make up for all of that testosterone you're not producing enough yourself.
That's right. Yeah, he had very, very low testosterone.
You could always tell looking at him.
It was the giant muscles that gave it away. That's why he had low testosterone.
Yeah, I think it was the muscles that were absorbing all of this testosterone.
All those muscles wanted it.
Yeah.
Couldn't get it anywhere else.
Yeah. The rest of his body
was suffering.
He needed more.
That's right. So the way that they went about it, the first sort of 70, 80 events, there was no testing whatsoever. Then they introduced what you could call an idiot test. Like they would test on the night of the show, but that was it. No out of competition testing. So, if anyone who is using, it's like they would just stop a couple of weeks beforehand and they'd get all the benefits from the training that they were doing. And then, they would stop and get it out of their system, take the idiot test, and some still failed. Obrim.
40.
Yeah, absolutely. But then eventually, over time, so they did have that system in place, so that they could say, "Hey, look, we do testing,
we do something." Yeah. And I think that's just for the veneer of legitimacy as much as anything.
That's right. So, but then they were looking at, and they must have kept this a secret for about maybe a year and a half, that they were looking to sell the UFC. And at that point in time, they partnered with USADA and they said, we're going to introduce the strictest drug testing protocol that has ever existed in any sport, which they did. So they brought on the head of the guy who'd been in charge of taking down Lance Armstrong from cycling. And Jeff Novinsky, I think his name is. And it was like,
he's your guy, isn't he?
He's the man, the golden snitch. His nickname was. But they brought him on and they said, okay, we want it to be super strict and really stringent. And they brought in out of competition testing, whereabouts testing. You had to tell them where you were going to be at all times. So where do you train? What times? Where do you live? If you're going on a holiday, you must tell us. You can't just we rock up at your house, like the tester turns up and I'm in Barbados, on a 6-week holiday. It's like that's a strike, So they brought in those elements and then they had that running and a lot of people tested positive. A lot of events got ruined and ruined as in they were going to fight on Saturday and somebody tested positive on Friday and then the fights got cancelled. So there was a transitional period where the fights didn't sort of look as good. People looked less impressive. The fights weren't as exciting. But the UFC had risen to a level where it was, the number one kind of growing sport in the world. It had that combat background. They were marketing really well. They were expanding throughout the world. They had alternate fighter shows going all in different countries, different languages, and marketing stuff, merchandise. Everything was really at their peak. And then they're like, hey, we're going to sell. They sold for $4 billion.
Yeah, so maybe that's the path. When you see AWE testing stringently, you know what's going on.
Get your wallet out.
So Phil Woody had a little comment there. We Latvian gang claim no usage, but they do wrestle bears in training.
That is an unfair advantage there.
Yeah. So I would say that in itself, bear meat would be
We're so far behind all the comments. I'm sorry, but we will get to you. But we do when we start getting into a conversation, we'll catch up. But
hopefully Taryn has caught up with us now. That's what that whole story was about, just to give Taryn a chance to catch up with us.
I said, Matt, we need some filler, and I said UFC.
And if you're wondering what this snazzy little hat is here on the table,
I was wondering.
This is an AWE cap which you can buy off the AWE arm wrestling website when it launches very, very soon. We are only a matter of days away from that announcement, and we're going to be able to steer towards the website so that if you want to copy yourself some awesome merch just like this and beautiful hand stitched, it would have been stitched by hand.
I stitched it earlier.
Yeah, a little hand.
It wasn't my hand.
Would have been a little underaged, like a poor little chap in an impoverished country doing this for next to nothing.
His name's Greg.
Yeah, from New Zealand.
Yeah. Great arm wrestler.
Yeah. So
really strong fingers.
So weed can be a painkiller, relieves joint pain pretty much instantly. In lots of cases, allows sleep when normally might not be possible, amongst other things. That's why weed is awesome. So and why we won't be banning it at the AWE. So
we haven't banned anything.
Yeah.
We'd rather put our money towards the promotion, especially at this point in the sport. It's like if they said here's $20,000 for something, it's not going to go towards drug testing.
It is not going towards. It might go towards weed though, because Fox 8, well, as you pointed out, it is very much the miracle drug. So
well, that is banned on the USADA list as well.
It is off. Yeah, that's right. It's off the weed.
So Nick Diaz tested positive for marijuana. Like 6 times in a row.
Yeah.
He got banned multiple times. And I think the last one that he tested positive for, he was going to be like, it wasn't a lifetime ban, but it was I don't know, like an 8-year ban or something. And then they ended up lowering the amount, it's so they raised the amount. So I think of the metabolites that you could have in your system, it was something like, I don't know, 10 or whatever. And they said, okay, let's raise it to like 80, so that because people just keep testing positive to this, and because it stays in your system so long, it was like, Nick was saying, I stopped smoking 7 weeks out and I still tested positive. It was just, so they raised
for a drug that you get most of the benefits of in 8 minutes of consumption if you're smoking it, for instance, and it takes a little bit longer if you're going to eat it, of course. And I mean, it does hang around there at a cellular level, but the perceived benefits of it weeks down the track.
He still tested positive, by the way.
Awesome.
Dankiest arm wrestling, Taryn Broad says, I have a great idea. Let's test East versus West. That definitely wouldn't affect anything. No, not at all. No. Don't use that money for helping the promotion and making things better for the sport. No, let's just throw it into drug testing, which everybody is after.
Yeah, everybody wants more drug testing in sport. So if you might be one of those people who wants more drug testing in sport, and that's completely fine. You're more than welcome to have that opinion. I would ask those people what they would prefer the money be spent on. If you happen to be running an arm wrestling competition yourself, if you've got, let's say, $20,000 at your disposal from your kind sponsors and you're putting on a show, are you going to get 2 tests? Are you going to take half the money out of your promotional budget and give it to the testers? Who is making money out of this after all? The testers, the athletes. Who's making money? In some part, it's a layer of bureaucracy that's wormed its way into amateur sports under the pretense of lending legitimacy to some emerging sports in order to make them more advertiser friendly or marketing friendly, or to make them maybe a promotion more saleable to a bigger fish. But it's a very interesting thing, because as the sport is growing, I'm sure that there'll be more money there, and when more money's on the line, you've got athletes that'll take greater risks, and we don't want to. We would hate for, let's say, a young man from, say, Georgia to feel like he's got to be 180 kilos in order to win.
It does,
and and to take enormous amounts of PEDs in order to.
It does.
And we would hate to feel that anybody would need to do that in order to be the number one in the world.
Yeah. What's your view on testosterone replacement therapy on medical grounds? This was interesting. This is what we were talking about a minute ago with Vitor Belfort.
Loved the idea.
Yes, TRT Vitor. So This is another thing from the UFC. I'm sorry, man.
So
to go there
I'm
again.
going to say what my view is that the UFC's got nothing to do with this.
It does completely and utterly. And the reason I know all about this is because of this exact reason. I should have a little jar every time I say that word. I've got
It'd be cool.
Yeah. Actually. But so they had a threshold, and this is the natural threshold that if you were at the upper limits of testosterone, you should be sitting. And I think with the measurement that they were using there, it was like 4 was like your highest level. It should be around 4, and at the absolute extreme, you would be at 6. Like they put it at 6. It's like no one's going to get 6 naturally, but we'll put it up to 6 because just in case there's some freak out there who happens to have like a really high level of testosterone. You know where I'm going with this.
What was Overeem's level?
40. Which he claimed was because of tainted horse meat.
Horse meat, yeah.
That's how it happens.
Yeah. All those Kazakhs are so jacked because all that horse meat.
That's right.
Oh,
yeah. So,
tainted.
So yeah, 0. So yeah. So a 0.01 to 4 is pretty standard, and they went all the way up to 6 for testosterone levels. And then so with testosterone replacement therapy, you could sit your level at 6 and being legal. So you'd go to the doctor, you say, I've got low testosterone. You stay up the night before, you don't eat, you go and train beforehand, which naturally lowers your testosterone levels. If anybody is ever going to do that, that's how you get a low test score on your testosterone. Is you stay up all night, you don't eat, you train, and then you go get your levels tested, and they'll be way lower than what they should be normally. So athletes would do that. They would get a low test score, and then they would get prescribed testosterone. They say, "Oh, well, you obviously need testosterone. Look at you.
Yeah.
You're wasting away here. You're only 130 kilos and 3% body fat." So, these guys could legally use testosterone replacement therapy and sit at that level 6 all year round, which is the extreme level of high level of testosterone, whereas somebody who's natural might fluctuate between the 2 and the 4, that sort of thing. And especially with these guys that are training 5-6 days a week, or even some cases they're doing double sessions 6-7 days a week, especially leading up to a fight where there's a lot of grappling, a lot of fighting. They're so taxing on your body. Your test levels are in the dirt. Like you're not at peak performance at that point. You are trying to improve your skills and you're trying to get fit to be able to go into the cage and fight. But if you've got your level at 6 the entire way through, you are recovering faster. Your ability to take punishment and you're going to have an advantage basically. So people were using testosterone replacement therapy as a way to legally cheat, and it went for about a year. They had this happen, and eventually the UFC said, no more. Can't do it anymore.
No, we know what you guys are up to.
Yeah, we're on to you.
The TRT is an interesting one because there are a lot of people out there that have experienced head traumas and that have had difficulties over the years.
Is that them now?
And as a result,
that's all of them. No, we didn't.
And there are a lot of people that cross over from combat sports into arm wrestling as well. And so there are people out there that do have genuine. So when you have these head traumas, and it could have been earlier in life, often it's not manifesting as a symptom of any kind until a man gets in his late 30s, early 40s, and so and then it's manifesting in depression. It's and it's low testosterone due to head trauma, and it's a real thing. It happens a lot to guys that are in the military, or that have had a combat sports background, or just sometimes guys that have played sports and have just they've hit their head, they've landed wrong, they've done something. It can just be one impact, and that's enough in the right spot.
They're talking about even soccer players with the heading the ball. Issues with that,
yeah. So these are really real issues, and this is a squirrely thing, isn't it? There's no fine line. It really is a big grey area, and this is one of the things. So one of the things that really pisses me off about this, and the people that really get onto it, is it's the same people. It's the same people that get on their high horse about drag cheats and all of that type of things. The same ones that'll just in the next sentence tell you how good it is that trans athletes are competing against women.
Yeah.
So
No advantage there whatsoever.
none. That 25 years as a man with your manly tendons and joints and bones and head structure. No, none of that would be an advantage at all. So, but it's another squirrely aspect to this conversation. You know, if you're talking those types of athletes that are transitioning, interestingly, we haven't had any females transition into the men's category as transitioning men into arm wrestling. That I can
Female going into men.
Family men,
Men going
transitioning into men. Yeah, I don't think we've had any go the other way yet either. No.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I have thought about that in terms of what we would do in that situation, but and I have an answer, but I won't publicly say what it is. Swisher Sweet says, well, I think it's a free for all because we can't fund the testing. I agree. That's what it is at the moment. Our first step would be to make sure that WAF was natty and then go from there. Well, that's the thing is, you can have the organizations that are saying, okay, this is where we're going to go. We're going to put our money towards funding testing, and that's where we're headed. And then the people who say, okay, well, I don't want to compete in that organization, and then I'll compete somewhere else. But you would have that choice.
Yeah, it seems like an inevitability that at some point there's enough money in the sport where testing becomes a testing regime becomes required, and but there's money there to do it, and it's not disadvantaging the athletes, the sports, the promoters in order to do that. But it's certainly, I can't see in anybody's world that it should be a priority. Like it shouldn't be. The people that seem to be pushing this barrow seem to be neglecting all of the other opportunities that are before them to advance the sport, of which there's plenty. There's plenty of chances for people to get out there and do great things for the sport. But there are a few of those people that do have those opportunities that would prefer to prattle on about testing instead.
Fox April says, I'm completely clueless on roads, PEDs, probably roids, I think, roids, PEDs, etc. I don't know what etceteras are, but
they're the worst type.
Yeah, they're the worst. Stay away from them. To be honest, I'm natty, but I can't say for sure. Someday I won't dabble in chemistry. I have no plans to, though. Well, that's one of those things is as men get older, obviously the testosterone levels will drop. Yeah, absolutely. So after the age of 30, I believe it's 1% every year that your testosterone levels will naturally drop. So if you're sitting at 40, obviously you know it should be an average of about 10% down of what your natural testosterone will be. There is that argument, the anti-aging side of things, where it's like, okay, well, I don't want things to start declining. Let me get back to a normal level, and say a normal level to you might be between like the ages of 18, 25. You know, the hormone systems that you're in place at that level. It's like, okay, well, let me get my testosterone back to a level where, you know, I'm not declining, I'm not losing muscle mass, I'm not losing strength, I am recovering from training. Those elements, not going to the extreme, but going to a level where it is back to a normal, healthy range. Whereas if you stay on that path of declining results over time, it's like, you know, you're looking at things like growth hormone, your testosterone, there's peptides and all sorts of things, and even some of the SARMs that are out there for recovering of injuries. You know, those elements are out there, and if used correctly, I mean, the reason that people use them is because they work, and there is no that factor there. It's like, okay, if I want to continue living in peak performance, even if you're not competing, even just for your own general health, it's like, okay, well, if I'm getting my levels tested with a health professional, and I've got everything back, and everything's starting to look over time, it's starting to decline. It's like, is it morally wrong of me to want to get those back to the level of where I'm not losing strength, not losing, you know, sex drive, you're not losing that motivation, especially as a male, those characteristics that can really define who you are. You know, it's like they're slowly declining. Is there an argument to say, well, is it fair to say, hey, I don't want that to happen, I want to sit at a normal level again? I don't want extreme results, I just want to be back to where I'm not losing results.
Yeah, and look, there are some really simple things that you can do. As one of those more mature men now, that
26 years old.
I'm 26. That's right. you know, and somebody I've trained, I've done weights since I was about 17 years of age, and you have your highs and lows with that. Sometimes you're really into it and you're super intense and disciplined, and other times you kind of get away from that and maybe eat a little bit too much, and maybe I'm a little bit in between those two things at the moment. But the reality is that training at certain times of day is more beneficial. Cold showers are a fantastic trigger for testosterone production as well, and a testicular massage is another one. Steve Maxwell is a big proponent of testicular massage in order to maintain. It's got a particular protocol that he suggests. So with the cold shower and the testicular
Talk about the
massage.
brush.
So if we start getting some of our athletes testing and they're really high levels, maybe they're just adding in a little extra massage in the morning. But there are all these things, and men of all ages should be doing what they can to maintain high testosterone levels. It's just it's just a good thing.
Absolutely. You didn't mention the brush. The brush was the best bit.
Oh, the brush.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the brush comes in handy.
Okay.
Oh,
sorry.
I
brought a comment up and I didn't read it. Red and Black 7 says, who is more packed with PEDs at East versus West 8, according to you guys? We're not here to speculate on the athletes. As he said before, we'll take people at face value, and if they're using and they say they're not, well, it's up to the people who are doing that to if whether you believe them or not. But for me, I just want to see some awesome arm wrestling. I don't really care.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting sports about one of the interesting aspects of our sport is that a lot of the competitors are actually quite close, and so and are very open about these issues. And so I've listened in on conversations between athletes and have been quite open with each other about what it is that they've been using and how that's affected them, and or maybe they haven't derived the desired benefit from whatever it might have been that they're taking. But the reality is that often the competitors themselves know what each other's on. So when we're talking about cheating, well, every athlete can decide whether or not they compete against the other guy.
Right, yeah.
So
you do have that choice. It's like if you choose to take the super match, that person's using something, and then if you want to complain about it afterwards, it's like, but you knew he was using stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think we did have a prominent arm wrestler on here just making the exclamation the other day about not competing against a certain other athlete because of concerns around PED use. Even though there've been some reported use of their own at some stage, but the reality is that he can just as easily say, "Yeah, I'm not going to compete. I'm not going to compete. I'm not going to test myself against that individual."
Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah.
You don't have to.
No, absolutely. So we're going to force you to. Lucas says Arm Wrestling Academia channel has a number of videos discussing PEDs. Is worth checking out. Thank you very much, Luca. Maybe if you could check that out.
I was actually checking out one of those videos the other day, Luca. Yeah.
Fantastic. There you go. And Timmy Gatsby, I manage 4-time national Australian champion with 0 PEDs. It's possible, honest, and fair. And that is amazing. Congratulations to you, Timmy.
Good on Timmy.
Yeah, it is incredible. And you are completely correct. It is not a requirement. It is not. You must be on to be able to be a champion. And obviously you've proven that.
No. Sometimes you do just meet people that are just next level strong. There's just another level to them that you just can't see yourself getting to without perhaps taking PEDs, and so you make that assumption of, well, they must be on PEDs. It's like, some humans are just built different.
Yeah, that's true.
Built different.
Yeah. If they've got that natural genetic advantage off the bat, and people are like, oh, this guy's using something. It's like, no, he's actually never trained.
It's like they're Latvian or South African.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
that's right. It's raised on, built on.
Or Dutch. Yeah, they're one of those three.
Thank you, Arm Wrestling. Taryn Broad says you can have 2 super match events, one that is tested and one that isn't. The tested one wouldn't get as many views due to smaller names competing, smaller in contextual there, smaller views.
Not just because they're called Sam and Jeff.
No, smaller views. That it's you've got to look very smallly through a tiny window. Smaller views would lead to not enough money. Money for testing is one word. Yeah. Thank you, Tara. Great point there. And this is
good
what you
feedback.
see in bodybuilding. You've got the Mr. Olympia competition, which I think they say, oh, yeah, we're tested, but they're not tested at all.
They're tested to make sure that they're on PED.
That's right. They get injected as they're walking out.
Let's have another one just in case.
That's right. But, you can see that's probably the prime example of a tested federation versus an untested federation. Your untested federation has the Mr. Olympia competition, the prestige, the worldwide attention, the fame, it's still a niche sport, probably because of the drug use. But on the other side of it, where you've got your natural federations in bodybuilding, although they have been growing over the last few years, which is great to see that, anybody who is doing any sort of exercise or putting on a competition to see that it is growing and doing well is fantastic. The physiques are completely different. They're nowhere near as muscular. They're nowhere near as big, nowhere near as freaky. They're not as defined, even though they are fantastic looking bodybuilders and they do a tremendous job. It is night and day difference between this guy here who's winning Mr. Olympia and the guy who might win the natural Olympia, and whether or not even in the natural events, guys are probably using as well in that, which it does go down to I'd say in genetics make up a huge percentage of your results in bodybuilding. If you don't have that ability to grow muscle just very quickly and very easily, and then you add in performance enhancing drugs on top of that, that's where you've got a potential of getting into the top, maybe if you're lucky, and you meet the right promoter and you buy the right protein.
Joe Guido
Megamass 3,000 calories of fun. Per scoop. That's right. That's right.
But yeah, there's I think arm wrestling is not at the point at the moment where there's enough money to be throwing at, much like the UFC.
You brought it up this time.
A few years ago, somebody might say. So you can have 2 super match events. You could have one natty that'll be tested. That'd be the really expensive one to run, the natty competition. You'd be spending a fortune on that, $40,000 testing everybody. No one would watch it. You can't make any rate of return. Hardly anybody's going to see it. And then you got the other one, which would be open, that everybody will want to see. So I think your observation is correct there, Taryn, where obviously the attention is where the money's at. And at the moment, there's money in watching big names compete. Those big names, it would appear from an outsider's in perspective that many of them are enhanced athletes. Although, otherwise it seems natural for 50-year-old guys to have 20-inch arms. No, that's normal.
I thought you were going to say, Taryn, that you could have two events and the tested event winner has to go against the untested against.
That's right.
A couch apple. I feel one reason arm wrestling is popular is because of the PED. Okay. Just imagine a completely natural arm wrestling. It would be like watching swimmers arm wrestle or something.
Shit.
Well, that's the thing is again, the reason that people take these things is because they work. You're going to get stronger people. You're going to get people that recover quicker. You're going to get bigger athletes. So those, from an audience's perspective, you want to see the biggest, strongest, craziest guys going at it in that aspect. It's like, I just wanted to see 2 gorillas arm wrestle. Whereas, if you are looking to compete in that competition, it's like, no, that's not the thing. I shouldn't have to do that to be able to get there.
It's kind of interesting as well. Like, from as much as we say we want to see 2 big gorillas, like there weren't too many people that saw Levan struggling with an oxygen bottle that thought that's peak performance. That's what we want to see.
Peak
more
oxygen.
Of. That's what we want to see more of. That's the best direction for the sport. So I think there's a lot of people that kind of go, ooh. Do we really want somebody to have to take that much
Oxygen?
That much oxygen to get to that level? Are we just sending good men to the grave early for our own entertainment and expecting people like Levan to be extra human, like 160, 70, 80, 90 kilos of muscle? Is that a realistic, is that something that we should be wanting for one of our fellow arm wrestlers, a fellow human being, for our own entertainment?
I don't think that we're in the
I
audience.
sense that your answer is yes.
Well, yeah. No, that's it. Because and the reason I say that is because there isn't a lot of money in arm wrestling. There isn't a huge amount of glory or fame in arm wrestling. It's not like if you were Levan Segashvili, obviously there's going to be certain areas of the world that people will know who you are and you'd be very popular. But for the forefront, if you're number one in a sport, I mean, if you're the number one tennis player, you're the number one Formula One driver, if you're the number one, I don't know, cricket player or something, it's you would get that level of fame and fortune, which would be far greater than what it is in arm wrestling. I think it's that the sport itself derives that, and it's like I need to be bigger, I need to be stronger, is the message the athletes are saying to themselves, as opposed to an audience saying we want to see this. The audience is a byproduct of that, of seeing that evolution of, oh wow, these guys are incredibly big, they're incredibly strong. And not that they're saying we demand to see this. It's like that is what the athletes are doing off their own back, and then the audience is then viewing that result.
Yeah. Yep. Fair enough. So big news. Josh Barker versus Raul Panica at AWE 3. So Raul Panica is he's very much a rival for Jamie Barrett for best physique in arm wrestling. Best abs in arm wrestling. There's no doubt. He's shredded for stereos, isn't he? He's ready to go.
He's got the singlet hanging out the back pocket.
Yep. He's all ready to go. He's a specimen. And of course, Josh Barker, he's got that alien forearm that, and is a quite specimen himself. So that's going to be a huge matchup. Really, we're going to find out that out of the out of Australia and India, basically this side of the world, who is the number one guy under 70 kilos.
Yeah, it really will, because Josh Barker has a dominant reign on that title, and especially in the Oceania region. And to have somebody else that is at his level, and then it's like, well, actually, not only in Oceania can you hold that title, but maybe you're going to start moving into the rest of the world here. And this will be a great test for Josh Barker. And obviously coming off of elbow surgery from AWE 2, where 3 days before the event he was literally in hospital getting his surgery, bleeding all over the table during the event, still turned up, still got pins, and did a tremendous performance against Thomas Fitzy from New Zealand there. But yes, he will be a very, very tough opponent to beat, and Raul Panica may be the man to do it. He's got the experience, he's got a whole country behind him in India there, and this would be a tremendous match.
It's been great to see all the Indians getting involved in this one as well. Ryan Bowen hasn't received this much hate mail for many weeks.
Have you backed off of
So it's he's been causing quite the stir. Of course, Ryan's matchup being announced last week with Mazahir. So the current heavyweight champion of India is bringing all of his might to AWE 3, and so that's going to be a very interesting matchup. Pradeep says 4-0. It's all over. Essentially,
he's predicting Mazahir
4-0.
Wow.
Taking out Ryan Bowen. So a big bold prediction.
Wow, there is a bold prediction.
So we're going to put $100 on that, Pradeep. We'll see how you're going with that one. So. But big matchup, and it's great to see the Indians coming over to be part of AWE. Some of the finest Indian arm wrestlers making their way over for AWE 3.
Absolutely. We'll just sort of jump down a little bit. I know we're way behind in the comments. We might scoot past some of the ones that covered some of the topics that we've got already. We'll just quickly go through Couch Apples here. In the past, it's possible, like in the early days of arm wrestling, Johnny Walker, Young Brezink, etc. Right now, it's very doubtful, even if it's hard to be sure, since all we have is the athlete's word. Since, of course, no one will say that they're on. Absolutely. That's in this. Hello to Neo there, and I'm just going to get through to Overeem. You're level 40. And we got the Drew. Yes, your package is on its way, my friend.
Oh, Oh, I can't wait for you to get that.
Yeah, that's right.
Exciting.
There were some extra things that you don't know about that I put in there.
That
wallet,
I don't know about.
Your wallet.
Oh, it's all right.
If you're
Nothing
looking
in it
for
anyway.
that, that's where it went. Fox St. Paul still. Carolyn has made an appearance as well. One of the followers of
She
arm
just jumped in
wrestling
to say hi to
streams.
Dominic.
Yeah, well, yeah,
That's nice.
It's great to see you. She's a regular on all arm wrestling streams around the world. And just trying to scoot through here. A lot of people talking back and forth with each other. This is fantastic. Swisher Sweets is a topic I think would be interesting to discuss, is having a pro versus amateur status like golf. If you pull a big pay-per-view, you lose your amateur status, making nationals amateur. Yeah, it's sort of in that realm now anyway, but not like official, I would say. You know, you've got your state level stuff, and then like, you know, even you sort of national events, and then anything where you sort of getting paid, or you got the opportunity to make big money, or you know, get a lot of a big following, you could say, okay, that's where the professional side of things.
Well, wherever the prevalent WAF organisation has dominance in a particular region is where the opportunities for athletes are somewhat limited, because once tested positive, you're out for 3 or 4 years.
That's right.
So, and that was certainly the case here in Australia right up until, well, this year. So if it wasn't for AWE, those athletes that might be using performance enhancers that don't any longer wish to be competing against the amateurs who aren't, who do want to test themselves against some of the best in the region around the world, well, they've now got a platform to do that, whereas before they just wouldn't have. And so we do feel for those people that are in those regions where WAF is the one and only option if you are in arm wrestling, and if you are on PEDs, for instance. You know, that's obviously quite the conundrum for you, and very, very difficult for you to navigate your way through the sport.
This is probably a very relevant comment here to what you were saying there. Mickey says, sorry guys for tuning in late.
That's okay.
No need to apologize. You're here now. Yep. I'm not sure if you've addressed it already, but what are your thoughts on you guys having athletes compete under AWE at their current ban for PED use? There you go. Well, we're just talking about that.
Well, we'll tell you right now, there's 2 of them that have recently received WAF sanctioning and who are not able to compete at an amateur level. So if it wasn't for AWE, they would have no opportunity to compete at all in Australia. So we're very fortunate that that's not the situation, that AWE does exist, and that these 2 superstars of the sport can continue. Now, whether or not they're using PEDs now or not, I really have no idea. I think from a conversation with one of those athletes, it's probably likely, and from the other, probably not. But nonetheless, when they were tested, there were substances found. What those substances are, I'm not even 100% sure, to be honest with you. So it could be one of those more innocuous substances that we were discussing earlier in the podcast.
Oxygen.
Like oxygen, which is, of course, the greatest performance enhancer there can be. So without it, not much performance.
Very limited performance.
So the answer to that one, Mickey, is yes, 100%. If an athlete's under a WAF ban, for instance, or a ban from a body that they've competed under previously, because they have tested positive, that's not going to have any effect on their ability to compete in an AWE event.
That's right. Yeah, it's a completely separate organization, isn't it? It's like if you have the organization that's running under the WAF structure, and it's like, okay, the WAF structure has drug testing in place. If somebody gets banned from that's their thing. That it's completely separate to every other organization in the world. There's not an overseeing. You must follow these structured protocols. You cannot pull anywhere else in the world, sort of thing.
We have no daddy. We can do as we please.
It is. Well, I was going to say UFC then, but I'll say MMA in this context. They do actually have a sanctioning body that does. So if you test positive, so say you test positive in an organization for cage fighting,
for instance,
one of the many,
one championship.
That's right. Yeah. Well, so let's say in Las Vegas, right? Because it's probably easier for me to use that as an example. So they'll have when you go to get your license to compete, you have to apply for the license, and then you obviously get that, and it's under a regulatory body, the Nevada State Athletic Commission. So the Athletic Commission is who you are fighting under. You must follow their protocols.
Body, yeah.
That's right. And then if you test positive at the event, that has breached their protocols, and that Athletic Commission, obviously they have a structure within that whole country, and then they usually apply worldwide with MMA organizations, and they'll say, so if you test positive, say in Nevada, you can't then go to let's say Australia and compete there, because they'll reach out and say, hang on, this guy's banned here for
Yep.
So there is that overseeing art, but
Yep.
it's not like that with arm wrestling.
No, although somebody's tried to make it that way in arm wrestling. So there's definitely been people that have tried to make life difficult for those people that have tested positive, and to try to limit opportunities for them. But nonetheless, AWE will not stand in the way.
Coach Apple says trying to ban steroids outright is futile. All it will do is give an even bigger advantage to people who take them and get around the tests. And that's coming from someone who doesn't take them. The better route is to give an option for natties. And we didn't get all of that comment.
It's like
same bat channel, same bat time.
To be continued.
That's right.
But picking up on that point. I think that's very much. I think what WAF is probably the direction that they're moving in is to be the Olympics of arm wrestling. That's seemingly they want to go down that road, and good on them. And on the other side of that, there's the East versus West. There's King of the Table. There's AWE. There's Arm Gods, where that those regimes aren't in place. So that's obviously they're the events that are garnering the far more attention than a regional WAF event. A far more watchable, a far more entertaining, and so ultimately you've got your athletes who can compete natural and have that platform. And if you're a natural competitor, WAF is a safe home for you. They are doing what they can within the limitations of their resources to ensure that the playing field is level, and or that there's a fear of testing. So so this is what they're trying to do, because obviously they don't have enormous amounts of money to be testing everybody.
Don't they?
But they don't have, they're not dedicating those resources to testing. So what
do you think about, like, say you've got an event on and there's a tournament, and you've said, okay, this is a tested event, this is a tested tournament, and you only test one person?
Yeah, well, that's the ridiculousness, isn't it? Because
it costs so much money.
Yeah, it costs so much money. And from what I understand, there was in Australia, for instance, there was two athletes that were tested. There might have been more. That's just what I understand. But there was two athletes that were asked to be tested. One refused the test, and so was banned accordingly. And the other one tested and then tested positive to oxygen and other banned substances. And so in that scenario, it's the end of the road for those athletes in those organizations. So they do go into it understanding that is the case. Now, both of those athletes obviously lost their titles as a result of that, but no one tested the people that they competed against.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And there are other people that are included within the rankings in Australia that maybe if tested, they'd return results that would reveal they're not 100% natural as well. So it's a very interesting discussion that's going on in the arm wrestling world at the moment. So we're keen to bring it to you, and it's great to get your feedback on it all as well. Fox April says, I pulled with Indian national champion last year in Wales. He's strong AF. He is strong. He's looking good. 115 kilos.
Well, he might not be referring to Mazahir Saidu.
Oh, not the same.
He maybe not. The national champ, he says. But if it is Mazahir, let us know. Because, you're right. The Mazahir, 115 kilos, 6'2". He's going to be bigger than Ryan Bowen coming into the competition, which was funny because I think Ryan put up a post yesterday. And one of the comments was like, "Oh, why are you always picking on people that are way lighter than you? You're always going against guys that are smaller." And then Ryan listed like his last 8 opponents, and all but one were way bigger. Yeah. He's like, Mazahir's 10 kilos heavier than I am. And
they must think he's bigger because of that red beard of his.
That's right. It does weigh a lot. Kyle Davison, one of my friends, he says, "G'day," and I say g'day to you, and thank you for your advice today. You gave me some good filmmaking advice. So thank you for that.
Good on you, Kyle.
There you
Thank you.
go.
We appreciate that.
And we've got Anton Fedorchenko from New Zealand. He did pop over here. We were talking about Tinder for arm wrestlers, which is the arm vets. And Anton was a classic example of that. He came over to Adelaide, was staying here for a few days, and messaged and said, hey, I'm in Adelaide. He wasn't going to be here for Sunday, which is our usual training day. And so I scheduled a day at one of the other members' places, and a bunch of us came around and had a great time training with Anton there. So really nice guy.
Fantastic.
And who we've got here? Count Shuffle. Maybe this is part 2 of his question. I am surprised. How come there are seriously people who think Ongabai have never used PEDs? Just for information, Kazakhstan, which is universally termed a hardcore place for arm wrestling, is one of the most notorious doping nations in the world. How?
I feel like there's just not enough room
It's
for you.
just not enough.
IFA and WAF are tested. What leagues and other leagues are not tested? Pick your choice. Yep. End of story. Pretty much my view on the subject as well. Like, you can compete or you're not competing. The fraternal nature of the arm wrestling world is such that there's every chance that your opponent's going to be privately open with you with respect to what it is that they're using. And so it's always up to the individual to make the determination as to whether or not they compete. So we make no bones about it. We don't intervene. We don't ask the questions. If the athletes are curious, they can have those conversations amongst themselves and then tell us whether or not they still want the match up. That's fine.
Yeah.
I can say it hasn't been part of the conversation at all.
Nope, not even a single, not even anybody's ever mentioned it.
No.
Ruben Jennings says, would it not be beneficial for athlete measurements to include forearm length, as leverage is a significant factor in strategies and advantages? That's true. You got a long forearm, that is cheating, definitely cheating. Using your body, cheating. Bending your wrist, cheating. Yeah. It's purely this and nothing else. That's all we expect.
Yeah, maybe that's it. That's how we take the sport back to basics.
Must be at a kitchen table.
Must be in an arm break position at all times. Otherwise, it's not real arm wrestling.
That's right.
It is a determining factor, and maybe that's something that we do consider. Is maybe let's not just talk about the girth, but the length. So we might
talking about arm wrestling.
Work that in. Yes. And so. It was interesting because at the last event we did drop the reference to the bicep size. I don't know if you may have noticed that little nuance in the announcement. So we were talking about bicep size in AWE 1 and forearm size. And then on this occasion, we just talked about forearm size and left it to the commentators to pick up on the rest.
Well, I thought you were talking about where we asked the viewers who had a bigger arm, you or me, and we waited to the end, and then we did reveal the fact that your arm is actually bigger than mine.
Oh, is it?
But I do the double biceps, which threw everybody off.
Yeah.
But you can see Mr. Stockbridge's arm is
kind of similar.
Yeah, you've got a microphone in your way.
There we go.
There you go. And if I move mine this is out angling, which is Josh Barker is an expert at this. Yeah.
I think one's bigger just side on, like the forearms.
Yeah.
Spaced out. I've got a cramp.
Oh, did you? Do you have the rest of the show like this now? Oh, that's great. We've got Couch Apple. Just for information, Kazakhstan. Who's talking to? Just for information, Kazakhstan, which is universally termed. Didn't I already read this one? A hard place for arm wrestling. There's the rest of the comment. Half the team was banned from WAF at one point or another for popping to something. There you go.
There you go. Kazakhstan. The other thing is there's an enormous amount of horse meat in Kazakhstan, and so that was obviously
tainted horse meat.
Tainted horse meat, and Overeem had that problem.
He did. He didn't go to Kazakhstan, but he had that problem.
He did have that problem. Obviously imported in large crates, just straight to his front door.
Straight in a syringe
from the plains of Kazakhstan.
That's how he eats his horse meat, in a syringe.
I'd imagine there'd probably be a blender situation. And it's distilled, and then what's left? The testosterone aspect of the horse meat.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It is. It will push you up to level 40.
So yeah, horse meat could be the issue with Kazakhstan.
Look who's
athletes.
here. It is the man himself, Ryan
Right.
Bluebon. Within small trusted circles, people would be surprised at who's used PEDs at some stage.
Ooh.
Publicly, most would never admit it due to government commercial sponsors, etc. But reality is very different. Well, there you go. You heard it from the man himself, the man who will be facing Mazahir Saidu at AWE number 3.
Yep.
And at a weight disadvantage of, I think, well, Mazahir is sitting at 115, Ryan's about 107 last I heard.
Yep.
So 8 kilo difference there. And
6 or 7 of those kilos is in that beard.
it is. Yeah, that's
before,
right.
so.
That's where he keeps all of his secrets, is in the beard. If you go looking in there, you'll find the answers to all your questions.
So what I'm reading out of this, Ryan, is that what we really need to do is to get the commercial interests, the sponsors, and the government to really get behind PEDs.
Yes.
Once they're behind it, we're good. We're good.
That's right.
Good to go.
That's right. Or we'll get them on board. Once they're on board, then reveal that all of us are using.
Am I wrong in assuming that the Turkish government's got some is backing some part of East versus West?
I don't know.
Have I heard that?
Maybe.
Is
I
that a
don't know.
rumor? It's a rumor. It's a rumor I heard from Hollywood Matt Connelly.
Oh.
Well, or another.
The other one.
Yeah, that there might have been some government support there. But anyway, there's. But yeah, you are quite right. It seems that this the will for sports to comply with the.
You're reading something at the same time as thinking.
The regime is.
Was it this? Was it this comment?
Blasted in a ring for
You did a Mitch McConnell just said.
Yeah. I just zoned out. Poor old Mitch McConnell. What happened there?
Yeah, he doesn't know either.
No, he's still working it out. He's waiting for somebody to tell him.
The link dropped. The Wi-Fi dropped out on his.
It was literally like that.
I'm working the arms. They're not responding.
What would you recommend to someone that lives out of the city with no clubs for improvement in the skills? I'd just say give up, Cameron. There's no point in continuing the sport if you it's best before you fall in love
before
with the
you
sport
start.
and want to do anymore.
Just stop.
Yeah.
If you've done anything, forget it.
There's most towns have a good badminton club.
Yeah.
So
you can start one.
So you could always do that. What would you do? I guess one of the great things these days, and how I came about the sport was simply by seeing it on YouTube. And I'm guessing, Cameron, you're pretty much the same there, mate. You've come across it online, and if you happen to be a little bit out. The first thing is really just having conversations with people about arm wrestling, because so many people are surprised that arm wrestling is a sport, and the more people you talk to about it, the more people get curious about it, and it doesn't take you long before you're coming across others that are like-minded. And if you're already involved in a sport, whether that's football or you're going to the gym, there's chances are you've got other guys around you that are looking to test their strength in other ways. And arm wrestling is just a great avenue. So first and foremost, get yourself a table, get yourself some training apparatus, which is super easy. A lot of the guys in the club tell me that their best training piece of equipment is just a strap, and just hooking it through and just training their pronator.
Strap on.
Yeah. Hamza did that for months and months as his only source of weighted training, and grew enormously in strength, and rose to the level of AWE junior champion. And we're still thinking about strap-ons. So doing some of that basic arm wrestling movement will keep you in really good stead for when you do find yourself on the table. And of course, there's always arm bets. So you might be surprised to find that there's other people that aren't too far away from you, that are within driving distance that you can connect with, and who may be connected with each other. So from my perspective, I found a few people that were kind of not too far away, like 20-minute drive away from where I was. And I reached out, and then they said, you know what, we all catch up it was actually at Taryn's house. We're all catching up at Taryn's house. Why don't you just come around here? And when I went there was like 4 or 5 guys, and it was a great introduction to arm wrestling. They were all very kind to me, and it was a wonderful thing. So jump on arm bets, see who's around you. In the meantime, get yourself a strap and a dumbbell or a kettlebell is I find really effective. Something in that 8 to 12 kilo range. If you've got something like that that you can do reasonably high reps with, and just start training those connecting that connective tissue that, of course, is so important in arm wrestling, and get those tendons working beautifully. And then by the time you're on the table and getting competitive, you'll be a million miles ahead. So
I think you said before, if you get a table is a very quick opening talking point, because people go, what is that? And you're like, it's an arm wrestling table. And like, what do you mean? And you're like, get on, I'll show you how to, and straight away you can be like, even if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you
literally carried around an arm wrestling table in the back of your car for 3 years.
I've got 4 in there at the moment.
Ready to go. So
I was arm wrestling people at 2 in the morning in the car park. Where I work.
Anybody who showed any glimmer of interest in arm wrestling,
yes.
You had them out there, and you became quite the arm wrestling evangelist.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, but it worked, because where I was working, it was obviously a gym, and so people were coming there to get stronger and get bigger and improve their fitness levels. And then it was like, and they maybe just jumped on there with me one time, but then every time they would see me, how's the arm wrestling going? And I've been watching this, and so they have some level of understanding of it. But I'd say,
Cameron, are you in Australia? Are you related to Talia of the Great White Greats?
Potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's a rarer name, Cameron. So just interested. But if you are in Australia, regardless where you might be in Australia, we can certainly connect you with the right people. If you let us know where you're from, I'm sure the community in the comments will happily direct you to where you can find more friends in arm wrestling. Ryan Blue Bowen is WAF affiliated, but backed by commercial interests. But it's all WAF affiliated, not tested though. It would seem loosely. It's very loosely WAF affiliated. So
loose strap on.
Yeah. So interesting that at a regional level, we're finding testing, but at the top level with the WAF affiliated organisations, they're not so earnest in pursuing the testing regime. Red and black 7. So essentially, I am just a simple fan of arm wrestling.
Aren't we all?
Yes, I just pay for pay-per-views and watch. Don't do anything else. I took from this that everyone competing at King of the Table and Ace vs. West on artificial enhancers. Great.
Hey, we never said that they are. We said they might be.
Yeah, well, we're
probably are.
Well, we'll leave it with you guys to make the determinations. And without a testing regime, we really don't know. But no one's asking. I guess if East versus West in King of the Table felt that it was an issue, that PEDs was an issue for them. And I can't imagine any organisation that has Larry Wheels as its face would ever feel that PEDs are an issue.
No, well, I mean, Larry's
so,
all natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, just pure oxygen. Carries a bottle with him everywhere. Couch Apple Matt /Dave, do you think it is disrespectful to ask an arm wrestler during an interview if they take steroids? I mean, to ask why, few answer honestly and others lie. I wouldn't answer it, because honestly, I don't really care that much whether they do or not.
Oh, you wouldn't ask it, or you wouldn't answer it?
I wouldn't answer.
Would you ask them?
I wouldn't ask them. I wouldn't ask them. I'm not interested in that, really. If I'm talking to an arm wrestler, I want to talk about all sorts of other things. That topic is just very far from the things I want to discuss about arm wrestling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes it a terrible topic of a conversation, doesn't it, for a podcast? I mean, it's terrible. But it is a disrespect. Look, I think it all comes down to context. Respect is all. So you're going to have some people that if you ask that question of certain individuals, they're going to react in a negative way and not want to answer it for whatever reasons, and that might be because they've got certain commercial agreements in place. They may have sponsors,
Liver King,
for instance, and so that it might be just they might want to tell you face to face. They might tell you back and forth in the messages where things are at, maybe, but they don't want to make these things public for whatever reason. So in that context, it might be disrespectful. So I don't think there's any hard and fast rules there. Also, I know just in experience, when you talk to some people, they're very open and easy to talk to about this particular subject and are very cool about it, and other people are quite prickly and don't want to get into the weeds about it and don't feel like it's any of your business. So it's a little bit like asking somebody about how their relationship's going, how things going with your wife. It's like, I mean, I've got really nothing to hide, but I don't know if you're the person I want to be talking to about it.
Exactly, especially on a public forum. And how is that relevant to arm wrestling?
I mean, it could be, but
did you want to read this one?
Dankiest arm wrestling. Nothing like being deep inside with Hamza. Strap on.
And a hooker as well.
Of course. Of course. Dominic Lorenz, who do you think is a source of truth on pros and cons of PED use? I don't know if there is a reciprocal of truth on these issues. Also, from my understanding, is that different PEDs have different reactions with people. What works for some doesn't work for others. The biological makeup of human beings is so fickle that it's hard to know what exactly works and what's exactly safe for some people. It's a real trial and error thing for a lot of those people that are in that world of use.
It's almost the same as training, isn't it? I mean, what works for you might not work for me, and maybe you do dumbbells, maybe I do barbell, maybe you do skull crushes, maybe I do a rope pull down. Like, it's just and you find those things that work for you over time. And maybe certain things will work for somebody, they won't work for somebody else. But in terms of a source of truth, I mean, there's go to YouTube and there's millions of people out there but there's a lot of channels that do that as a specialty. Sorry, I'm talking away from turn my mic.
Plates and dates often talk about those types of things. For instance,
there's quite a few actually. There's doctors and all sorts that have legitimate medical opinions and they can explain how things work to a scientific degree as opposed to arm wrestlers.
Bro science goes a long way. Cameron Great. So I've been in Armbet for a while now, looking around here and there, and the closest people were all in Adelaide, and that's a 2.5 hour drive. Interesting, Cameron. Well, it is a little bit harder. We've got a chap that comes all the way from Port Lincoln. Port Lincoln.
Yeah, so 8 hours or something.
Carl, which is an 8 hour drive, as you'd be aware, Cameron. It sounds like you're in South Australia. So he's all the way in Port Lincoln, and he'll come down to the club maybe once or twice a month for a super match, trains in the meantime, works it all out, and then comes down and tests. And of course, the training sessions that we have at the SA Titans go for 2 or 3 hours. So on a Sunday, I think they're publicly stated to be 5:45 to 7:45, but you'll still see the guys going 9:30 at night. And so, if it is that long drive, you mightn't be able to make it every week. Our trainings are on a Sunday. So I'll be speaking to Cameron here. We'd love to see you at the SA Titans. So go try and make your way down. To the Kilburn Community Club. Or maybe not. We might have a new venue very, very shortly, and we'll certainly let you know all about that, Cameron. But the reality is, if you can make your way down once a month. The other great benefit of being part of a club is the general community there as well. And there is a group chat that has all of our members in there. So there's 50 or so of the members who are always there and encouraging each other, or just talking shit about each other sometimes as well, but encouraging each other and giving each other great advice and helping each other with their training. And
the free PEDs that you get on entry.
Oh yeah, they help you out, buy in bulk and save. No, Cameron. So make your way down if you can. I know it's a long drive, but if you can get down here once a month or something like that, it'll be absolutely fantastic to have you down, and we hope to make it worth your while.
Well, this is what I want advice for Cameron is: if there's no club around you or no people that do it around you, then you start it and you make a Facebook page, start advertising in your area that you are seeking people who are interested in arm wrestling. Go to events if there's something on in your town. Talk to the event organizers. Say, hey, can I do a demonstration? I've got an arm wrestling table. This is what I do. And go and just meet people, and people might not have any idea what that is. And then it's like, oh no, it's arm wrestling. I'll show you what to do, and you're just explaining stuff. But if you're coming down to the SA Titans Arm Wrestling Club, you will learn the techniques and the fundamentals and the foundation that you'll be able to take back with you, that you can then pass on that knowledge to other people. Because if you're training by yourself and you sort of have an idea as to what you're supposed to be doing, but it is very difficult without getting on the table with somebody who is experienced and who does know what they're doing and can feel exactly the mistakes that you're making or the safety elements that you should be employing. So I would say, maybe it's a one trip thing. You come down, meet with us at the club, SA Titans Arm Wrestling Club, Kilburn Community Centre, Sunday 5:45 till 8 o'clock. We are at the back of the building. If you are there, we'd love to meet you and show you some of the ideas, and then you can go back to where, I'm not sure where you live, but you've got at least some level of foundation or knowledge, and you'll say, okay, well, I get the idea of what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'd love to practice this more. There's nothing like getting on the table with somebody else, because table time, I think, for me personally, is the ultimate training tool.
That's right. And there might be some people there that aren't on arm bets. So we do have people who are down in the southeast. We've got Shane Opie, and he's done exactly that. He's established an affiliate club down there, who or a chapter of the SA Titans down there, and gets his table out and gets friends and family and others, anybody you can drag off the street to get on the table. And then further north in Whyalla, there's another nucleus of another club there with Richard up there, and Tina. So there might be people around that you just don't know about because they're not on arm bets, but definitely we'd happily connect you with those people that are regional. But importantly, it wasn't that long ago that the SA Titans weren't the SA Titans. It was just Tim and Taryn and a couple of other guys hanging out in the carport.
It's on Tim's driveway, yeah.
And Tim's driveway, and so and now it's a club that's 50 strong, and thanks to a lot of Matt's efforts in terms of really taking it, making sure that if there was an opportunity to demonstrate arm wrestling, if there was a chance to put a table in amongst a crowd of people, that Matt was taking it, and he was really spreading the word about arm wrestling and ensuring that everybody within his circle knew that he was into arm wrestling, and any opportunities that emerged for him to be able to share more of his passion with people, his friends and family were opening those doors for him. So, so mate, we would love to help you do exactly the same.
Yeah, they were opening the doors for me because my arms were so exhausted I couldn't open them.
Open it yourself, yeah.
My favorite story, it is off topic, but it's Richard.
It's got something to do with UFC.
No, it's Richard from Richard Gibbs from the SA Titans Arm Wrestling Club. He trained with Tim, I think, for like just a crazy long session, like a 3 or 4 hour session, and then he's driven home, and his arms were hurting so much that he couldn't actually lift his arm to unlatch the door, to open the door. And he said he's sitting in the car and he's honking the horn. And his partner at the time, Tina, was standing at the window going, "What do you want?" He's honking, going, "Come out here." She's like, "What? What do you want? Get out here." He's going, "Oh, and they open the door. I can't lift my arms.
Can't do it. Can't do it.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Oh, it's so good.
Fox 8 Ball.
Oh, this one. I didn't like that one.
No,
Let me
like that
skip
one.
past that one. And Swish Your Seat says, "Do you think Babkin is a guru in the bodybuilding sense?" I'm not sure who Babkin is.
I've not heard of Babkin.
Unfortunately, my friend, I don't know who that is.
Oh, that might be one of the YouTubers who's out there talking about PEDs, etc. But I've not come across him. So the answer is no. Don't think he is a guru.
That's right. There are a lot of experts some experts. There are a lot of channels out there that you can find a lot more information out. And maybe Babkin is one. I'm not sure who it is.
Check out all the sources. Make sure you're making good decisions. And sometimes the best decisions just say no.
If you want it bad enough, bro, you'll find a way that works. Don't let anything get in your way.
Love it.
That the way for everything in the world.
Good stoic
East
advice
versus
there.
West is loosely affiliated with arm wrestling. It is, absolutely. Well, there you go. Yeah, we should call you Butter, Taryn, because you are on a roll. As Taryn says, the trend is watered down Levan blood.
Yeah, I've heard the same.
Ryan Blue Bowen, co-main event for AWE number 3 against Masahiro Saito, says, yes, it's a silly question to ask an athlete publicly. There are so many reasons why an athlete cannot speak freely publicly. If you want to know the answer,
Their mums might be watching.
that's true. Yeah, earn their trust and ask privately. And even then, you still be like, it is a grey area to go and ask somebody. This is personal information. If you're their friends, it's like meh. It's still like, if they want to, I would wait till they volunteer that information. I wouldn't be going around asking people that.
Yeah. It's it depends how friendly you are with people.
You want steroids? Just say it randomly to everybody.
Just ask anybody who's muscular.
That's it. Mario.
There is that guy who's got the YouTube channel who goes around to all the bodybuilding shows with a scale and a measuring tape, and asks people, and so some people do react really poorly to that.
They're lying. They get caught out. Mario Tembagas, Super Mario, who did a fantastic job against Artem Taranenko and Rika Dvorman at AWE2, and he's just on a successful tour of the Arizona State Tournament over in the United States.
Brilliant work.
He got first on the left arm and third on the right, I believe.
Yeah.
Not going to lie, but as a natural arm wrestler, it's pretty gratifying when I beat another arm wrestler who's using PEDs. But there you go. That's it.
And Mario, do you know when you're competing against these athletes, say more in the super match than tournament setup, whether or not they are, or is it an assumption, or are you having these conversations with the athletes prior to? Because some of these guys, like Mario is a very muscular man, and if he happened to say to me privately that he was on PEDs, I would 100% believe him. But some people are just next level. Like I say, there are Latvians out there. They're just next level.
There is a country called Latvia.
There is a country called Latvia, and they make those people different.
The Drew is helping us as he always does. What a fantastic guy. We need to get both these channels.
We do. We're so close.
At least at 1,000 sub level we are. I think 770
for
mine's 666 or something like that.
Yeah, still stuck.
Well, I think it's 667.
Thank goodness.
It's all over with. Dominic Lawrence says, so male testosterone works as opposed to the female testosterone. Yes, it does. It definitely has a benefit, and you can look at that scientifically across all sorts of research that's been done for many, many years, that it does have tremendous benefits. And Fox Apples says, Mario almost means more. I don't know what that means, but let's go to the next one. Denki's Arm Wrestling made the same joke that I made. Female testosterone works. And we've got Mammoth.
Oh, Mammoth. Well, we haven't seen you in the chat before, Mammoth. We hope you're well. Thank you very much. Are you coming to us from India currently? And hence your allegiance to the big man, Mazahir, your national champion currently. So we're really looking forward to seeing a couple of India's best over here at AWE3. So we've got Mazahir Sadhu and Rahul Panika making his way over here to test himself against Australia's best 70-kilo arm wrestler, Josh Barker. So, Mammoth, keen to see what your thoughts. Obviously, Mazahir, your favourite, what do you call it? First to four? Is it a 4-0 whitewash as Pradeep is preaching to the masses there in India? Or do you see it being closer than that?
Absolutely. Cameron Great says, have you met any good arm wrestlers coming from the Riverland? Well, I think we were just talking about them a second ago. There are people out there that do arm wrestling away from Adelaide. So if you just start reaching out and have a look through Facebook, like mutual friends and that sort of thing. I think if you made a Facebook page for Riverland Arm Wrestling, something like that, that maybe you'd attract the attention of those people.
Yeah. So to answer that specific question, no, but I think we do have some contacts. So Cameron, definitely reach out to Hollywood on Facebook and drop us your details, and we'll do what we can to connect you with who we know. And in the meantime, we'd love to see you down here, and we'd love to chat to you about how we can help you not just get involved in arm wrestling, but involve others in the sport as well.
Just wanted, I'm not sure if Ryan McLaren and his wife Kaylee from Riverland. I know they're from the country.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and maybe Andrew Centofani, but I know he's retired at the moment. But what was fantastic at AWE2 in the after pulling, we haven't seen Ryan McLaren for quite a while. He is a very, very good arm wrestler, but he hasn't competed for a few years. And somebody came up to me and they said, Stephen's getting beaten by some old guy over there. I look over and it's Ryan McLaren destroying Stephen. And Ryan's not old at all. He's probably younger than I am. So good. I was like,
maybe that's what they say about you when you're not around.
Yeah,
though,
they
so,
probably do. Yeah. We've got another Barbell Foods. Yes, check out the Barbell Foods. The code arm wrestle for biltong, which is point of difference is that they are air dried steak instead of oven dried, and delicious. Dave's favorite is the chili flavor.
It is my favorite,
but they have many flavors available. And if you punch your microphone, it does make a banging sound in your ears.
And thanks to Drew for doing our job there. Much appreciated. Mario Tambucas, absolutely. I'm just going to say absolutely for everything for Mario. I don't know what that's particularly about, but absolutely.
Last week when you said something like Mario is a very attractive man, and I, which wasn't paying attention, said absolutely, because I was reading a comment and you said, you just said absolutely. And I said, yes, I did, because I wasn't listening. I've just said absolutely.
But I don't think it would have made a difference, Mario. You are a very attractive, that beard, that's a very, very chiseled beard, very muscular, very chiseled beard, very, very, very attractive man.
Absolutely.
So this
is great. We're getting a lot of comments today, which is fantastic.
Yeah, thank you very much for jumping on board, guys. We really appreciate it. We're on the we're on the rise. We're seeking to get 1,000 subs and get this channel monetized. And we want to thank everybody who's been following us on the Instagram page. We've reached over 37,000 people now for the last 30 days. So we're peaking, which is amazing because we've actually seen an uptick in engagement on all of our social media platforms since AWE2. So normally you find that things peak at the event and then die down for a little while. But what's happened since is that there's been more and more attention on the social media pages for AWE, and hence we've been keen to get these announcements out to you with respect to AWE 3 and Raul Panica versus Josh Barker, of course, has been one of those big announcements. We just dropped the news about the biggest match ever, the biggest match ever in AWE history, and maybe the biggest match of 2023. And when we say biggest, we mean biggest. So over 770 pounds of elite arm wrestling athlete in the cage, across the table, face to face. Mataringi Hesselmorris, your former AWE Intercontinental Champion, against Marcus Atirai. Now, both men competed at AWE2 for championship belts. Both men fell short, and both men are now seeking to establish themselves as the next contender. And so who will find their way back into championship contention? That question will be answered at AWE3.
Look out. I'm going to click the Ryan Blue Bowen button and see what happens.
Hang on.
Should I click it?
Go on.
All right.
Go on.
We go. Oh, there he is.
He made it. There he is.
That's the man who's going to be facing Mazahir Saito. Here he is in the flesh, Ryan Blue Bowen.
What's going on?
Look at that arm.
There's been a lot of Indian chatter in the comments, and I know you've been receiving messages already, Ryan. It seems that you've inflamed relations with our subcontinent friends.
I have. You know, I got the pleasure of meeting one of India's leading commentators the other day. He's a guy who commentates Wimbledon and cricket and all the major sports for India. Anyway, after meeting him, he then went on a bit of a tweeting post and all that sort of stuff, and he's calling me the #1 arm wrestler in Australia. Sorry, Lachlan.
What happened to Lachlan?
Well, Lachlan's not in the country. Lachlan's in Turkey right now, so perhaps
that's true.
That's true. Absolutely correct. There you go. He's playing 4D chess.
This
in
week.
the extremely literal sense, that's true right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. Well, what were your thoughts on PED use in the sport of arm wrestling, Mr. Bowen?
Oh, man. I chucked in a couple of comments as well. For me, it's one of those things that you don't – it's very difficult to ask someone and expect a response publicly. It's one of those double-edged swords that you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you are an athlete that has a public presence within the sport already, if you've grown a following, you're going to have a certain percentage of that following up until the day you make some sort of public mention that you're on or have been on. there's going to be a certain percentage that just grill you and say, oh, you're on, you're a liar, you're a liar, you're a liar, because you avoid the subject. If you decide to say, okay, I'll go down the path of saying I've been on, then you get the other end of the spectrum come out and say, wow, we're so disappointed in you. You risk upsetting your mum, you risk upsetting the sponsors, you risk getting banned from your federations and all this kind of stuff. So but you'll get respect as well from a whole bunch of people that say, at least he's open enough to and honest enough to say that, yeah, he has. And you'll get respect from that. So it's this really difficult place to sit as an athlete. Now, for those who have followed my story, they know that I've walked that path exactly. I spent the first 6.5 years clean. I then was on for a bit when I went to the Zloty tour for the first time. I made public mention of it in about 2021. I got the respect. I also got grilled. I also got banned from Australian arm wrestling federations because of the public admission. And that's where we are. So I'm at a place now, and I think that, like I said, it's interesting because it's a very difficult place to be for any athlete. Now, I made also a comment about if you're in private, respected circles, people will share with you a whole lot more openly than they will in a public forum. And I think that's fair enough. I like the analogy you gave, Dave, about you wouldn't say, how's the relationship with your wife? You wouldn't ask that publicly to any athlete or anyone for that matter, because it's just not an appropriate conversation.
Roids, you'd want to punch your head in.
Yeah. So I think it is like that.
That's the telling secret. That's the initial question.
I think it's one of those things that, look, within this sport, it's extremely obvious. If you look at the top 10 guys in the world, I think you'd be, and I haven't had private conversations with all these guys. I have with many of them, but not all of them. You'd be crazy to guess that they're clean. You'd be crazy. Let's just call a spade a spade. You'd be absolutely crazy. So if you are someone within the sport who has aspirations of reaching that level, you start to draw a picture and go, okay, well, this is what I'm up against. I did when I first got serious about the sport. When I say serious, when I got to the point where I was wanting to become one of the world's best, I asked John Brzenk at the time, what's the story? Do you need to be on PEDs to become an elite arm wrestler? And he very clearly said to me, no, you absolutely don't need to be on PEDs to become an elite arm wrestler. He said, but you will find yourself in positions in your career where you'll have to make a choice. Do I want to be on PEDs for this moment, for this match? If there's $500,000 on the line, you can pretty much guarantee, not that that's ever been the case. Actually, look, John did win a massive, massive truck to that sort of effect, but he made the point, you don't need PEDs to become an elite, but you will find yourself in positions where for a certain match, you know that you're going to be up against someone who's on. And so you make that decision then and there yourself. There are tested leagues. There are non-tested leagues. I think that's pretty clear as well. WAF, IFA, they're all tested in all the countries' subsequent federations that exist underneath those. But there are also the commercial leagues as well. We've had, since I've been involved in arm wrestling, there was the PAL, WAL, King of the Table, AWE, all these places. It's well known that they're more about just getting the entertaining matches, the biggest, best matches in the world. And if we're honest, those same guys are the ones that are paid the most as well. You don't see people retiring off their WAF prize money. So, yeah, that's just where the sport's at.
Mario made mention a little earlier that although he's naturally does have those discussions with many of his competitors and finds that most competitors at the top level are very open with respect to that privately. And so giving Mario that opportunity to weigh up whether or not that's still somebody I feel I can compete with in a fair way. And Mario, to his credit, never shirks away from an opportunity to test himself. And so regularly finds himself across from the table from enhanced athletes and still able to take it to them, which is a real credit to
we all know that the amount of Jim Beam's Mario drinks is a performance enhancement in itself. So Mario is definitely enhanced.
Three other people in the beard. That's why he's so strong. They're all working the arm.
Jim Beam is somewhere. Yeah.
I think what the true effect of PEDs in respect to your arm wrestling journey no matter who you are, is it will accelerate you, but I don't know that it will actually take you to a higher place than you could have got to anyway. It'll just get you there quicker. There's no doubting it'll get you there quicker. Arm wrestling is a sport where longevity is tremendous. You just have to look at some of the guys that are in their late 50s, early 60s that are still at the top of the world. And it comes with a different factor. Like I've heard you guys mention connective tissue a bunch of times, the old man strength, whatever we want to call it. It's a real thing. It has a direct effect on your ability to be competitive. And I think that PEDs don't affect that. They affect your muscular strength, sure, but they don't affect your conditioning level. And your conditioning level comes over the decades of being in the sport. And so if you are patient, I think that you can. Maybe you can become a better arm wrestler. I don't know. If you're really patient, you just stick it out and just grind away for the decade after decade. After 20 years in the sport, if you haven't stopped, and even if you have not taken one PED, I'd be certain that if you had the passion and the drive to become a world champion and you trained consistently for 20 years, you'd make it. You would. That's what John did. And he's proven it to the utmost. So I don't think it's the be all and end all, but yeah, it's part of the sport in specific moments for sure.
Absolutely. Just to address this question from Cameron Greats here. Is it true, Ryan, that Dave Chafee is coming to the AWE next year?
It's more than true, isn't it? It's on. Dave Chafee, easy money. He signed the dotted line. He's coming out and he will declare that he's going to crush whoever holds the Intercontinental belt at that time. So we've got to work out who that is. It's, of course, Todd Hutchings at the moment. We've got Lachlan Adair chomping at the bit as well. So we'll see how those cards fall. But Dave Chafee, he's locked in, yes.
Absolutely. It's going to be incredible to have somebody of Dave's caliber to compete with us here at the AWE. We're very honored. Same with guys at the level like Todd Hutchings when we had him on the card. Real honor for us to meet with these guys and have them compete with our organization. Swisher Sweet says, Ryan, PEDs would help a flop presser more than a top roller. Your thoughts?
I don't know. Hey, are there more androgen receptors in there, or I don't know. I don't know. Well, look. I always when I went through the period of time where I was publicly talking about the PEDs that I was on, a number of people just jumped out and said things straight away like, all your gains are just because of PEDs. And I used to hold my left arm up and hold my right arm up at the same time and say, well, look, guess what? My left arm has as much PEDs as my right. And why on earth is my right so much bigger than my left?
Photoshop.
So I think PEDs help what you train. So if you're training the flop press 5, wish a 5, or swish a sweet, or whatever we want to call it, I think it'll go there. It definitely, if you do nothing on PEDs, you don't really change that much. You might get a bit leaner, you might get a little bit more tone, but you're not going to turn into a Hulk. No way.
That's right.
And it really is a black and white thing. So when you're saying, to an athlete, have you used PEDs or are you using PEDs? So some athletes might, like say for a moment, they might toy with it. They might not really know what they're doing. They might take the wrong thing. They might then never go near it ever again. But then all of a sudden, they're tainted, if they've said, oh yeah, I've used before, then everybody just assumes they've been on massive courses of God knows what, when in actual fact they might have just toyed. So this is such a huge gray area that not all PEDs are the same, not all dosages are the same, not everybody is going to have the same results as a result of taking the same amounts of whatever either. And really you've got to be a chemist and a PhD to really understand how all of this stuff works really well, and to be monitored and to do your blood work. And other than that, it's all just bro science for the most part. So it really is difficult, and so it's understandable why some athletes who may have tinkered around with it or may have used it in preparation for a competition once 5 years ago,
Mm.
say no, I've never used, because it's just easier to say that than say, yeah, I did stuff, it didn't really work for me, I don't know, and then get caught up and tainted with that whole, oh, you're a drug cheat, you're this, you're that.
I remember Sean Shirk, who was the lightweight UFC champion, who was very muscular physique, and was always being accused of using PEDs. And he was adamant that he never used anything. Tested positive to something. It was, I don't know, it wasn't Assam. This is quite 15, 20 years ago or something, but he was furious that he actually tested positive. He was adamant, I've never taken anything. He spent $20,000 on a lawyer. They went through all of the systems that were tested, the way that his blood was handled, and they found all these discrepancies in the machines weren't cleaned properly and all these things. But even after all of that, they rescinded the positive test. They said, yes, we've made mistakes in the handling of your sample. We're not banning you. You didn't test positive officially, but despite all of that, everyone's like, "Oh, he's used it for
right after
he's tested. He's a cheat."
They only want to hear what they want to hear.
Yes, the muscle
Yeah.
shows.
Well, that's the thing. Within the small circles as well, I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but I know I have a long list of people that if I had to stand before God and testify who's told me, it's a long list of people, and many of those people I'll see publicly post that they're totally clean and always have been. And I don't blame. I'm not upset at them for that. I get it, but it's a long list. Is all I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. We just got a question here from Red and Black, who says, Ryan, are you just focusing on arm wrestling? Do you not do any commentating anymore? You should make up with Enkid. Compete with East versus West and commentate. That was ace when you did it.
Yeah. Thanks, Red and Black 7. Am I focusing just on arm wrestling? In a lot of senses, yes. I have been at the YouTube game for about 10 years. Equal to that with arm wrestling. I ran them both in parallel, and it really got to the point where I just decided I needed to put more energy into the arm wrestling, and I got tired. I don't know. I guess people get tired of careers after about 7 to 10 years. They need a break, and keeping up with every single daily goings on of the sport across all subjects was what I used to do. I think I did well in that respect. It grew everything grew nicely. That's where I kind of became known within the sport, but I got tired of it and I wanted to put more energy into arm wrestling. So arm wrestling is really the focus for me. That's where I'm at. I still enjoy commentating. I love commentating. I just don't commentate on the social politics of the sport anymore. I don't commentate with all the bullshit. Yes, and as Dave puts his AWE hat on, which is looking outstanding, by the way. Man, I love, you'll see me commentating at all the AWE events for sure. As for making up with Engen and going to East West West, I don't think that I'll be in Turkey anytime soon. I'm very, very happy with AWE being in Australia. It's amazing. No need to go anywhere.
Absolutely. And you need to head off, mate. If you want, we can keep chatting. Are you okay? Yeah. You're all good? All right. Could you tell us about how Jerry how he got his strength, or how he noticed that he was going to be really strong in the flop press?
Oh yeah. I forgive me, Jerry, if I tell this story wrong, but I asked Jerry that question when I met him in Turkey, and he described to me, I think he was 16 years old. He got his a job as a laborer for his dad's company or his uncle's company or someone like that, and he was carrying massive pieces of form ply or something like that, and he would carry them. Everyone else was carrying them, just standing. He'd say, "No, give it to me like this," and he'd load up 4 or 5 extras than anyone else and would carry it with his wrist back. And so he spent a good part of 2 years of his life as a teenager developing wrist back conditioning. And so when it came to arm wrestling, he just naturally fell straight into that groove where he was carrying the form ply for the last 2 years of his life and developed it from there. He's obviously a big bench presser as well. So that came obviously throughout his time in the gym. But yeah, the wrist back came from laboring days.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you think he would have gone against Cleve Dean?
I think he would have crushed Cleve Dean, to be honest. I feel like Cleve was slow, and Cleve was all about hand and wrist, and it was the fact that you couldn't get around him that made Cleve so good, where Jerry just would go straight underneath and have access to his power. Yeah, I think he'd crush me.
That's it. Red and Black says, do you guys see a possible event with Hermes or Levan in the future for AWE?
Well, I mean, all things are possible.
That silence was telling.
Yeah. It's not on the radar.
So which one of us is going to answer this one?
I don't know if we've got enough bottled oxygen in Australia.
It's expensive. It's very expensive.
So
the air is very clean in South Australia, so
that's an answer.
But if both men wanted to compete at AWE, and
I think they do. They would love to.
Should we just assume that they do? Okay.
Well, we do have someone mentioned before. We do have Dave Chafee, who is already committed to coming to AWE number 4 and to contest for the Intercontinental Belt. Dave Chafee is someone who is recognised as in the top 10 in the world. So let's say Dave becomes the champ. You never know. I mean, someone's got to take it off him, and then the list is getting short, isn't it? The list is getting short then. So, and when it gets to that moment, like AWE doesn't have a world title belt yet, and I think that I like the fact that we've protected that title. We're not giving it away lightly at all. But when it gets to the level of Hermes and Levan, like when someone like that comes out to take it off whoever, I think it's a new belt. I think that's when we do say, all right, the AWE world title, and then it's away. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, it's because we haven't thought of a name of that title yet.
Primarily,
we do love the Intercontinental title. That's
good. Favorite so far.
And of course, Todd Hutchings winning that title at AWE 2 against Matawaringi Hannah Morris in a back and forth battle, and a battle that a lot of people were not expecting. I think they were very much expecting Todd to just walk through Matawaringi. It wasn't the case. We saw a incredible battle between those two.
Well, of the 100 or so thousand people that have now seen that match on your YouTube channel, Ryan, there's a lot of regret that people didn't watch it live. I think a lot of people thought it was just going to be 4-0 and very, very straightforward matchup, but that was a war.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody sweat as much as both those guys did, and I'm being completely serious when I say, and when I've watched it back, I said during the event, it looks like Todd is standing in the shower, and it was pouring off his head. It wasn't just dripping; it was pouring off. It was insane. It doesn't pick it up as well on the camera, but in person, it was like he was constantly holding a bottle of water over his head. Yeah, that's how much sweat was pouring off this man.
Yeah, truly epic, and I think. All of a sudden, Matawaringi's got a lot more respect. People are now saying that he's leveled up substantially, and can now claim to be in that top echelon of arm wrestlers around the world. And who knows what's in that young man's future.
Ryan, can you tell us about the heaviest match in history that is going to be taking place at AWE number 3?
Oh my God. Do we have a base plate substantial enough to carry this one? We got Matawaringi Morris, and we have the Tahitian Wrecking Ball Marcus Atirai, who are both at our last event both weighed in at 170 kilos apiece. I think the first victory for either one of these two is going to be who weighs in heavier. I expect them both to come in above 170, and how far above 70 we'll see. But these are two genuine giants. They are the biggest two arm wrestlers in the region by a long shot. And the fact that they've called each other out, they've been circling. And it was at AWE2 that Matawaringi actually in the podcast after the event said, "I want Marcus Atirai." I think culturally it's a fascinating clash. I think they've got a big group of people, a very supportive culture behind each of them. The Maori people up against the Tahitian people.
Split the Pacific right down the middle, that one.
It's gonna be amazing to call it. And I've seen a few people say, "Oh, surely it's a mismatch that Matawaringi is just going to beat Marcus." But I tell you, stylistically, this match is no way a mismatch. No way. The thing that Matawaringi brings is a posting top roll. The one thing that Marcus Atirai loves when people do is a posting top roll. It's like the perfect thing for Marcus Atirai. So, and I don't know if the strap is going to fit on these dudes, but they're so thick wristed and their hands are giant. Oh man, it's going to be special. That's going to be a very special match.
It's going to be amazing. We have to reinforce the table there. 340 kilos of arm wrestler on it. It's going to be absolute fireworks. You won't be able to have to get the camera to stay way back to be able to get both guys in frame. It's going to be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, very very interesting that both athletes they accompanied each other to AWE 2 in the back of an Uber. Now, for anybody who knew where they were staying and where the event was, it was about maybe a 700-meter walk, and neither athlete were going to go with that option.
It's cardio.
It was cardio. Neither of them wanted to risk it and perhaps expend valuable calories on walking, and jumped in the back of an Uber and got
Well, they were lucky
I can just imagine the Uber driver not wanting to take the ride, but then seeing that the 350 kilo man wanting it and thinking, "Oh, I better just this one time."
Yeah. Maybe I will. Well, my car almost didn't make it with Ryan and his cohorts from Brisbane.
Brisbane 6 we had with us at the time. It was big. That was big.
Kilos.
Yeah. Hey, we got a shout out to Arm Gods there. Says, "Hi guys, hope you're all well." Ahoo. Did I do that? Ahoo, right? How did I do it?
No. Oh,
there we go. You got to really get into it, haven't you?
Yeah, I think you got to get into it.
The real Metallica style.
But you can't do it quietly. I think that's
Paul Maiden's gonna crucify me over that attempted ahoo. But I sound like I got a runny nose or something, and I need a tissue. But, thank you, God. Hope you guys are doing well.
Ryan, when you're going to run another tournament? Well, at the moment,
Mickey
on AWE. So yes, but might be something in the works. We'll see.
There is the potential. I think that there's a need for it, and the fact that Mickey's asking for it is an indicator. Mickey himself, one of the studs of lightweight arm wrestling in Australia, of course. If you want a highlights reel, that's your man. I've never seen better post-match celebrations or post pin. Like if he pins you if he pins someone, he goes bananas, Mickey. He's amazing. So yeah, you might get the call soon, Mickey. You never know, mate.
Oh, fantastic. Just quickly answer this question here from Cameron Greats. He's just made Facebook. If you want Hollywood Matt Connelly on Facebook and on Instagram, it is Matt Connelly 13 for your question from earlier.
No, I think you're saying he's made an arm wrestling Facebook page already upon your recommendations just a matter of minutes ago. So he's going to
follow the AWE page, and we need to get up to that 1,000. But subscribe, anyone who hasn't subscribed to the AWE YouTube channel, please do. We want to hit that 1,000 subscriber mark. I think we're at almost 800 at this point.
Yeah.
IMG King says PEDs break everything in the human body. I'm not a fan of PEDs, athletes, but I love to face PED guys as I am natural 45 years old and looking younger than others. Nevered drugs or PEDs.
There you go. That's the secret, isn't it?
That's the word from IMG.
I'm a king. I'm a king.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. I never read it that way. Yeah. I'm going to. Yeah, Ryan, that was a rule from Brokeback Mountain. Let's hear a proper one, Ryan.
No, I can't do it. There's too much pressure now. I can't do it.
We're all like leading in, watching. Come on, do it.
I need to go and watch 300. I need to go and watch 300. Get all fucked up. I'm gonna do it.
I'm goals. I want Auden Larratt versus Jamie Burnett, junior Commonwealth belt in Canada. Oops.
Jamie Burnett doesn't exist as a human on God's just saying. People there. Jamie Barrett, Josh Burnett. Easy slip of the tongue. But yeah, Auden Larratt. Auden Larratt. We actually went as far as hitting up Auden Larratt via Devon about a match with AWE junior champ Hamza Hodgick, and it was Devon's feel that Auden needs a bit more time. He's not quite at that level yet. Was Devon's response, but he was very grateful for the opportunity. That's for sure. But yeah, I haven't watched Auden Larratt pull. I haven't watched him pull, but I think he won the Canadian Junior Nationals If you're talking about Jamie Barrett, he's just a stud. He's really strong, and really driven. Like when I say he's really strong, it's scary how strong he is. If he's taking on another 70-kilo juniors, then they're in trouble. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and obviously he has competed with AWE one. He took on the junior champion in Hamza Hodgic. But what a compliment for Hamza.
Who do we give Hamza next? Who do we give him? He's that good. He needs a good match.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Rickard Borman is under 21.
He's a different type of animal. When we're talking about people built different, it's Latvians and Rickard Borman. They're the specimens.
There's always Jack.
That's the DNA that the aliens want to take with them when they replant the population on another world one day. So Cameron Grates, I think arm wrestling in Australia has a bright future. Seeing it on the Channel 7 News and others, which you would have with respect to AWE2. We were very fortunate that Grant Law, public relations, is an Adelaide company who and he's an arm wrestling fan and a member of the SA Titans, and he was kind enough to connect us with the local media in our pursuit for more exposure for the sport, and hence that's where we got that spot on the news. And
I did feel terrible having to interrupt you when you were I was doing the interview with Channel 7 News, and then halfway through you started doing like an announcement for everyone who was there. And I had to go up and say, "Oh, sorry, mate." I felt really bad.
Sorry, mate. They've been here for 3 hours. Oh my god! I mean, for the 30-second interview that they did with you, we had to put the whole event on hold. But nonetheless, it was great to get the exposure. And of course, if you do want to see the full interview, which you might not have seen, well, you definitely didn't see if you saw it on the news, because that interview did go on for about 10 minutes or so. And you can head that over to Hollywood Matt Connelly's Instagram or Facebook page, and you can see the whole interview there.
Yeah, it's on Facebook and it's on YouTube. And Travis, you outclass the bomb, says these guys should be the commentators for every arm wrestling match. Well, if you watch AWE, you will see Ryan and myself commentating.
Your dream shall be fulfilled.
That's right. You'll see Dave in the cage doing the announcing of the matches, and has been known to jump onto the commentator's desk as well when Ryan was competing. So
yeah,
Dave the Pinnacle Stockbridge.
The pointy end.
The pointy end. It's because of my little head.
The Drew says, I think Harms is too much for Auden for now. Well, if we could get some suggestions from people as to who they think Harms should go.
Because we've only got a few more years of Hamza being of the age where he's able to defend his youth title. So it's good to keep his opponents in that category so the belt can be there. But he's definitely ready, isn't he? Like for the big leagues. He's one of the most unassuming arm wrestlers I've ever met. If you see pictures of him, you don't think he's going to be as strong as he is. But when you grip that man, it's like, oh snap! Okay, wow.
Yeah,
a lot of back pressure.
Yeah, that's the amazing thing. He's literally getting stronger by the week. So, I think last time we measured him, he was 6'5" or something like that, and
6'10" now.
Yeah,
he's up to Marcus's level of weight as well.
Yeah. Isn't Milo the stronger brother? He toys with Auden.
So Milo Larat, is he under 21?
I don't think Milo is Milo's the older one. I don't think Milo's heart is in arm wrestling, from what I understand. I think Auden. I think Milo and Auden are pretty balanced. Milo might just get the edge, but Auden's got the hunger. Auden wants to be an arm wrestler. That's the difference.
Well, come and face Hamza.
Yeah.
Apparently he's not ready. He's not at the level yet. So
well, I guess Hamza's only had 18 months at it, and Auden's got his dad's an arm wrestling legend.
It's interesting because some people, and Swisher Sweet is just called Hamza a freak. I agree. He is. Like, what makes him a freak is when you meet a young guy, usually, even if they are strong, that you can see they don't have density. Where when Hamza grips up with his back pressure and it turns on, there's a sense of the density through his joints. He has really solid connection to all of those pressures. where other young guys, they lack that. They might be able to move a weight well in the gym, but they don't have the density in those positions. He's got all that in spades. It's what makes him special, I think.
Paul Maiden has jumped in and said Lachlan Carpenter versus James Wall. How would it go?
That's a good match. I've pulled both those guys. I beat James Wall 4-3 on my left arm. We had a screamer of a super match when I was in the UK last year. Lachlan Carpenter's dangerous dude. I think Lachlan's got about 15 kilos on James, but James has got a bit more experience. I think that's a red hot balanced match.
Which one's got the better accent?
Oh, we're talking Indian.
Brian, how do you see Wall versus Bogdan going down in a few weeks?
Oh, I didn't know it was going down. Of course, Bogdan Stoica being the man I faced at Arm Wars, James Wall being the man I faced at Arm Wars on the other arm. Yeah, I beat both these guys at Arm Wars, just on different arms.
Same day.
I think that James Wall's right arm is his better arm. Look, Bogdan's Mr. Acceleration. He's got speed. He can hit very quickly. Where James Wall is more about just stop the match and make it a battle. I think James Wall is going to be stronger. I think Bogdan's got some dangerous hits off the go. I think that I'm going to go Bogdan in a silver bullet, with James Wall getting tired towards the end and Bogdan getting a flash pin to finish with a sneaky one.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
When an opponent has a flash pin as their ace, what sort of things are you doing in your setup to prevent them from getting into that position?
Yeah, you like
massive mess.
Speed. Yeah, mass speed. Speed is an intimidating thing. Look, the number one thing to negate someone's speed is to have a stronger hand than they do. And that was what, for instance, beat Bogdan for me, was that I was able to establish the high ground and he couldn't rise against me. And every time he tried to rise, I could feel his wrist drop. And that totally negated his ability to be quick. So having a stronger hand and wrist than someone will solve the problem. But if you're balanced and they are really fast, a deep grip becomes your best friend. You start to have to trade leverage for control. But you obviously don't want to go too far. You go too deep, you lose access to your own rotation ability, and you give your opponent too much access to their rotation ability, and they'll just cut you off with a press and take it over center. But a deep grip will slow that flash pin down because they will. It'll add security to your own wrist flexion, and subsequently, when they hit sideways, your wrist flexion can affect their pronation, and if their pronation becomes affected, their side pressure stops. So, but like I said, it's a fine line. Go too deep, and they'll just flash press you.
Can you explain about your training tool? That I think your dad actually built this, and it's like you can only move this handle like 1 inch in each direction.
Yeah, even less. It's got about a 15 millimeter range.
Right.
And it's I used to use it to train my center table rigidity, and I feel I've always been a fan of winning the first movement off the go. If you dictate terms on the first movement, if you're the one that causes the match to take up any given particular shape wherever you want it to be, whether it's hook or top roll, side pressure, stay flat, whatever, winning the first 5 millimeters will do that. And like case in point, when I had a super match a couple of years ago with Lachlan Carpenter, and this is a man who has a far stronger base than I do. He's got a 200 kilo bench press. He's got bicep strength that would be comparable to myself, maybe even a bit more. But it was a very easy victory for me because I was able to just win that. All I did was supinate and entirely disengage his power. So training with an apparatus like that allows you to really just emphasize the strength of those center table movements. Center table matters a lot in arm wrestling for sure.
Yeah, so that's all. So because it only moves a very small amount, what sort of movements when you're training with it are you sort of replicating?
So for me, I actually my favorite movement to train is wrist rise. It was just to actually. So we built the apparatus in a position on the table that matched my setup. So I would go into my setup and I would rise against it that 15 millimeters to the maximum strength that I could. And I would static hold with my knuckles up against this apparatus at my genuine maximum effort. And I would just make that harder and harder and harder. And then you can also, whilst loaded up, then just try to bump it 5 millimeters to the side without losing any shape in your wrist. For me, I've always believed that wrist rise is the most rewarding strength in arm wrestling. And by rewarding strength, I mean in respect to your opponent. If you're dominant in wrist rise, everything else falls away. Everything else becomes easy. If you're matched in wrist rise, yeah, it'll move down the chain to work out who's going to win the match. But if you can be behind on everything else, and if you're ahead on wrist rise, you'll win the match.
Wow.
Yeah, incredible.
That's a real arm wrestling masterclass there for anybody who's still hanging in there in the chat, and the numbers continue to grow.
It's like both Ryan and Lachlan Adair have the level of knowledge in their arm wrestling, like the nuances, the little movements and the muscles and the connective tissues and the exercises is second to none. When we had Lachlan Adair on the show a couple of weeks before AWE2 took place, and the depth of knowledge that he was going into very quickly and easily and fluidly, that he's obviously thought and studied this and explained this many times to other people. It's just incredible. And obviously, Ryan having 10 plus years of international experience, and just those little movements, those little tips that other people who maybe have an idea of the fundamentals and they're looking to get their strength to the next level. It's like, well, these are the guys you want to be listening to.
Yeah, indeed. Ryan, so this one's from Engen. Ryan, are you doing a live commentary of? Sorry, no, it isn't. It's the Woodsman.
The Woods Engen.
The live commentary of EVW, East versus West this weekend. That's
I'm of course very interested in this weekend's East versus West, as fellow countryman Lachlan Adair is over there pulling in a Romanian guy who I think he's going to destroy, because anyway, that's another story. But the answer to that is I'm not yet sure. Reason being, my wife and I are attending a wedding on Saturday night, which, depending on time that concludes, and it's my wife's birthday on Sunday. So I have a small window between the wedding and my wife's birthday where I might be able to jump on and do some commentary. So typically speaking, East versus West for me starts at around 3 a.m. local time. So and it goes for about a 6-hour thing. So I'm leaning towards I'm probably not, because I'm going to be up heading off for a nice breakfast with my wife for her birthday. But you never know. You never know. I might
read between the lines, people. That's a no.
How Ryan's priorities have changed.
East versus West or breakfast.
Yeah. And Paul mentioned a little bit earlier about my Australian attire on my Facebook page. I think he's talking about my white Bonds T-shirt there. So thank you very much for that. Thanks for noticing. I appreciate it.
I was going to bring that up.
Red and Black 7. Are we guessing a Ryan versus Ray? Well, I think we have by de facto, haven't we? We've answered the arm wrestling world. The karmic nature of the arm wrestling world has answered this question for us, Ryan. Do you want to apply to Ryan?
Do people really still want it? Like, surely, I don't know. I guess there's some people that missed the update. But yeah, as Dave's alluding to there, some 2 weeks after I defeated Artem Taranenko comfortably pulled through Coach Ray. So you can do the math. Or you can still want the match. I don't know, but you're probably not going to get it if we're asked.
Yeah. So and it was Coach Ray was meant to make his way over to East versus West too, and I'm really looking forward to the documentary that they filmed on that weekend, coming out in cinemas near you. I will be waiting for that.
It's a good documentary, that one, I'm sure.
Very good. Well, it's got Rana and Coach Ray and
the amazing documentary. Yeah,
it's I mean the brothers. The production company called up and said, "Oh, we've got to be there on that weekend," and so they weren't able to make it. So really looking forward to that release. I don't know if it'll be Netflix only.
Production company called up.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an Engine production.
Dave, your level of straight-faced sarcasm is sensational. I friggin' love it.
So stay tuned for that, Lovers of Latvian documentaries. It's like I say, I'm not sure Netflix or whether it will just have a cinematic release across the world.
I think it deserves a cinematic release. As many theaters as
I think we all like to know what happened on that fateful weekend in early July in Coach Ray's gym.
Absolutely. Well, Paul Maiden is a fan of yours. He says, wow, that Facebook pic I saw of Dave was ridiculous, classic Aussie. Yeah, look. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
That's a white Bond shirt.
How much did you weigh at that point?
Probably about the same as what I weigh now, but it's just differently shaped. just more down the bottom now.
The chest has slipped down a little bit.
Yeah.
But the arms are bigger than mine still. That's what this podcast always devolves into. A lot of this.
I'm just hiding it. I'm hiding it all very well here, Paul. It all actually just looks exactly like that photo. Just keep that in mind when you think of me. That's why it's still there.
Absolutely. We've got. Here we go. Paul Maiden again. Riser is key, especially if you can combine rotation with the lower thumb. And obviously, Paul having a wealth of experience as well. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's a 26-time national champion, British champion.
Paul's one of those dudes that
hasn't beaten anybody outside.
He's one of those dudes that gets it like in mega detail. He gets it. He's one of those guys that has weapons that are 3mm movements kind of thing. Like, he's someone that has a superb understanding of how to use the anatomy of his own arm against someone else. So yeah, he loves it. He loves it. He's good.
We should be doing a documentary on him.
I think they are. They went from Coach Ray straight over Paul Maiden. To England. It wasn't that far, so they went straight over. He also make sure you have your elbow kicked out, and in my opinion, that way it keeps your opponent outside shoulder and keeps yours inside your body, landing on top position. Wise words from a champion arm wrestler.
From the expert.
Matawarengi, the beast, Hedda Morris, all 170 kilos coming down on the keyboard there. Wrist riser with the big biceps. We did see your wrist riser in action at AWE2 against one of the legends of arm wrestling, Toddzilla.
You know, when you come across somebody very, very special, like a special personality in a sport, when my wife gets excited when she sees Matawarengi's post pop up. And when she saw that promo between Matawarengi for the Matawarengi Marcus matchup, at the end, she was as she was as excited as I was about it. So look at those guys. This is going to be massive.
Who's she going for? She got a favorite?
She likes Matawarengi. She loves him. Yeah, that's her guy. So especially after seeing him in person, she's very, very impressed. And
he is an impressive man.
Very, very impressive. So
and a lovely guy as well. Hello to you, Matawarengi. And I'm probably saying it wrong. If I am,
don't hurt him.
I'll give you guys one more lesson. You're very close. Matai Iwa Rangi.
Okay.
Yeah, Iwa. Just get the Iwa in the middle.
Like if anyone who's just tuned in, this is like a really weird sort of language teaching podcast. Right. This is the Ryan Boeing hobby that he does. He teaches people how to say New Zealand names.
I was like 8 years getting it wrong, and then eventually I just got it right. I finally. After all that time, apologized to Matai Iwarangi and got it right.
Well, how did you find out that you were saying it wrong?
I can't remember, but I think.
What do you keep?
I think Matai Iwarangi just. I think because everyone forever when I was first in the sport just called him Big Matt, and I think it just I overheard him saying to someone it pissed him off or something like that, and I thought that's not the guy, not the size guy you want to piss off. And so I thought, well, it's time to learn and get it right. And
did you reach out to the great man himself to ask, or did you?
I did. I got the lessons directly from the man.
Oh, one more time for me, mate. Sorry, Matai Iwarangi. Is that right?
Matai Iwarangi.
Matai Iwarangi.
Oh, perfect.
Matai Urengi.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, that's it. So we're looking forward very much to AWE3. We are still working on, and I'm going to segue into that because it's time to talk about the promotion that we all love. We've got the three of us here. We're going to talk to you about AWE3, which we're still locking in the date. We're waiting on a venue to get back to us. But yeah, once it is in play, we have the majority of the matchups all sorted and confirmed, and we have released 3 matchups so far, which is Ryan Blue Bond versus Mazahir Saidu, the Emperor of India, and it is for the Emperor of India ship, this title. So Ryan would not only be the King of Australia, the number 1 Australian arm wrestler, he would also be the number 1 Indian arm wrestler as well.
Yeah,
unless Lachlan comes back.
Until Lachlan gets home.
And did you see the little GIF in the chat, Ryan?
No, I missed it. What did I miss?
Oh, well, that'll give just before you go to bed tonight. Have a quick look at that, just to help you with your personal positive affirmations. I think you'll like what you see there.
Red and Black is looking.
Feel free to distribute widely once you've enjoyed it.
Red and Black says, "Take my money." He's very keen. So yeah, you'll see Ryan Bond versus Mazahir Saidu. You also see Australia's number 1, probably Oceania's number 1 under 70 kilo arm wrestler Josh Barker, and his forearm will be coming along together as a package, as a duo.
Travel together.
They have to get separate seats, I think. He'll be going.
Paid for separate seats.
He did. It's too big.
Yeah, his forearm gets first class. He's back in.
Yeah, it's weird.
Coach.
Yeah, I don't know how he does it, but he will be facing off against Rahul Panika from India, the man with the greatest set of abs that I've ever seen on a man. I didn't actually see his face. I couldn't look up. I was distracted. I was drawn at. There was no looking up happening at all. It was abs, and that's all I know of.
Best abs in arm wrestling. There's no doubt.
That's a match that I am really looking forward to. Josh Barker hasn't yet had an international opportunity in his arm wrestling career, and he's a stud. And I don't think the world knows it yet. And I think Josh deep down has been waiting for an opportunity to pull someone that has international reputation that gives him that opportunity to show the world where he's at. Because anyone local to Josh knows his level. He's very dangerous to even the best guys at the heavyweight level. And as for 70 kilo dominance, he's been incredibly dominant in Australia at 70 kilos. Rahul Panika went to the WAF World Championships and did very well. I think he finished 6th at WAF World Championships. He finished on the podium at the Asian Championships. But most notable is he had an absolute red line war with the man who went on to win the World Championships at WAF. And it was phenomenal. So it's like, oh man, so for Josh, it's a big opportunity. And for Rahul, it's a big opportunity to expand their empire and show the world what they can do. So I'm very excited about that match. Very excited.
And I like the fact that if Rahul Panika does win, he goes into the pose-off against Jamie Barrett to establish who does have the best physique in arm wrestling. So that's a very exciting development for AWE.
But Josh does have a skill of out-angling people. He said, no, you stand here and I'll stand over there for the photo.
He gets the lighting right.
But I got the photo back. Hang on a minute. He's 40 kilos lighter than me and he looks 3 times bigger. What's going on? It was very, very structured. No, you stand. No, on this side.
Up and step back.
Yeah. Okay. Red and Black 7 says, what do you guys think of Paul Lynn at AWE? I think you can set up some really interesting matches with him. Well, yeah, Paul Lynn. If anyone is interested in a character or an idol or a person you should look up to, is Paul Lynn. He is a legend of arm wrestling and what a wonderful person. So giving, charismatic. If you watch his channel, he's 100% genuine and he's done very well in the arm wrestling scene recently. So we'd love to have Paul on the AWE.
Yeah, I think I would love to pull Paul. I would love to pull Paul at some stage.
AWE 4, you heard it here.
Okay, big announcement.
I have pulled Paul for 5 years 5 years ago. I met him in the final of the Arizona tournament over there, and he beat me when we were both relatively still up and coming. I would love to pull Paul. He's done very well for himself, and as you said, he's a good dude, very diligent, hard worker, talented. yeah, I think that there's a place for him on the invite list to AWE in the future for sure.
Yeah.
Would you pull Paul in a pool?
Did I pull Paul in at
Would
pool?
you pull Paul in a pool?
I would, yeah.
Well, Ryan doesn't have that pool, even though you're from New South Wales originally. But the word pool for us is pool.
Cool.
We do get a lot of people
There's not
from
a
Sydney
split.
that say
Pool.
pool.
They say pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
school.
We don't have the Paul split in our South Australian, our specific South Australian dialect.
Is it dance or dance, Ryan?
It's
He's
dance, right?
Yeah,
I'm a dancer.
Dance.
You dance. You guys dance, don't you?
Yeah, well, it's called bath broadening. So the dance is more of a Northern England thing, and the dance is more of a Southeast specifically. Yeah, so,
Which
like
a Paul Maiden sort of thing.
Which is where most of our people. Yeah, well, Paul Maiden's kind of Midlands, isn't
he? Sure.
Yeah, Paul can correct us there.
He will.
An easy way to upset an Englishman is to call him out. What do you guys think about Neil saying he's having stem cells? We will see Ryan Bowen versus Neil pickup matchup. Well,
definitely after Paul.
I'm honestly so out of touch with anything Neil. I haven't seen anything that he has done in a long time. So I'm starting.
He dropped in on the podcast last week and was keen to share.
I've publicly said it before. I've publicly said it that you could offer me $1 million super match with Neil and I wouldn't take it.
Would you take $1 million though?
No.
As long as I didn't have to have a super match with
I'd like to have $1 million just to tempt you out of that. Like, just go, all right. As it turns out, we don't have $1 million, but we do have 3 roll clean soaps. Will that do it?
Yeah,
Here's some background on that. Neil Pickup fired some cheat shots at Ryan on the Devon versus. I don't think we really mind. We're not that.
Yeah, I haven't watched anything like the fix for a long time, so I really don't care. Whatever.
Yes, the Drew's got the right idea here. It's Neil versus Ryan, and that's before or after he faces Engen.
Both at the same time.
Yeah, on each arm.
Yep.
Flat out not interested.
No.
you know how fun it is for the arm wrestling world that there are these little rivalries and skirmishes that go on. Though, if it wasn't for that, Jake Ward would have nothing to talk about. Nothing. It would just be
what
2
would
hours.
Jake be saying?
Oh well, it's got nothing to talk about.
There's no hand grenades being thrown at all.
You dead set legends. I've got nothing to say. That's basically what it'll be.
Well, yeah. That's it. I think that's how it would be. But yeah, it's Jake hasn't jumped in tonight, and we normally do see Jake on here.
Yeah,
Aussie arm wrestler Jake Ward. He's probably traveling. He's always all over the world.
He's everywhere. Jake. He's definitely a hardworking man in that respect. It's crazy, but no,
what can we expect to see out of Lachlan's match this weekend?
Yes,
I think it's going to be an incredibly dominant performance from Lachlan. I think he'll do it without getting out of a trot. The reason I say that is it's not a disrespect to his opponent. I can't remember his name, but
that's even worse.
The reason I say that is because when I heard that he was pulling a Romanian, I thought, hang on a second. Top Romanian is Savan Badalescu. Number 2 Romanian is Bogdan Stoica. Who is this Romanian? And so I messaged Bogdan Stoica and said, have you pulled this guy? And he said, yeah, I pulled him this year, beat him 3-0 in a super match. And I went, okay, well, someone that Bogdan beat 3-0. I then looked up the video. He sent me a link of them, and the guy is fast, but as soon as it stopped, Bogdan just pulled through him like nothing. And I thought, wow, okay, if Bogdan's pulling through him like nothing, I beat Bogdan relatively comfortably. Lachlan is crushing me right now. This is not even close. So that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting Lachlan to just look like he had to do nothing.
Is the betting lines open on this? Or?
No, unfortunately not. Unfortunately not.
I'm going to call my bookie in Turkey and see what we can do. Neil has never stopped training ever. He's been making excuses about his losses since 2013. He's had a cold and bad shoulder and dodgy wrist every comp. There you go. There you go. So one day I'll do my life.
I think that's the documentary that they were filming. That's what it was about.
That's what the camera crew will be heading over to see.
Given
I like that name, Neil Pockup. That's good.
Yeah, Jake got to Ryan under a bus Ward. Shots fired from Paul Moden. Jake Ward there. Yeah,
is that announcing? Maybe I don't know.
He's setting a fire here. It's Jake versus Ryan AWE4. It's happening after Paul Lynn and after Engen and after Neil Pickup. It's going to be a Ryan-a-thon. He's going to line them all up.
Yeah,
Funny.
And it's something to do with Mario. I think might have slipped its way out. Mario might know more about that, but yeah, it's interesting. If you just listen to Jake long enough, you'll find out everything you need to know about arm wrestling. So he knows things before I do. So it's awesome.
Does he know the lottery numbers though? That's what we want to know. Jake, if you know, please just let me know.
Yeah, just that'd be helpful.
I won't do anything with it, sure. So we wrap things up. We've been on for 2.5 hours here. We've had the great man himself join us here for the last hour, Ryan Blue Bowen, who will be featuring heavily at AWE3 at a to be determined location.
And is the smaller man.
Yeah.
So I have seen some comments out there where Ryan just punches down. Or he's a bully. He's a bully. He's just taking on little guys. And
how dare he?
Whereas, and I think you were quite articulate in your response and listed out some of those. I think
the average
opponents and
the average weight of my last 6 guys is 125. So.
If you average it, yeah, and and when we reflect upon Mazahiri's 115 kilos as he stands, Pradeep report says of this morning, and I just imagine he just takes the scales out and pops it in front of the athletes.
He does
just to double check, and so 115. You're weighing in at.
This morning I was right now I'm like 104.8. I'm light at the moment.
Okay.
I've added a bit of extra work to my schedule in the last few weeks, and those extra calories burning have just dropped a bit of weight. So I'm a bit lean at the moment.
Starting to show through? Are they starting to come?
We're not ready for the Josh Barker to Rahul Panika showdown. I'm not stepping in for Josh at any point, but yeah, but I am leaner than I was.
And you have thinned down the beard a little bit.
I think that's where the 2
kilos. I have. I got to a wedding this weekend, so so I had to look sharp.
So you're going to leave the beard
at home.
It
wasn't a Viking themed wedding then. So Mickey, no Jordan Davis at no Jordan Davis at AWE. No, but we have heard of Jordan Davis working on a comeback. I think we heard that through Jake Wood. He might not have said it.
We have put the invite out to Jordan. I believe he's in a phase where he's declared his comeback will be nationals this year or something for the Australian Arm Wrestling Federation. So wish him well for that. But of course, Jordan is that caliber arm wrestler that there are many matches that are very interesting. Should he ever want to step into the ring, I'm sure we can find him something without a doubt.
So did you and Jordan start at the same time? Is that correct? Around the same time?
No, Jordan started a year and a half after me. But yeah, but he started with me. We lived just around the corner from each other, and for 4 years.
Sorry. So you were
4 years. We trained daily almost with table time. Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah. So with your strength, obviously you're known for an incredibly strong hand and wrist, and then obviously the fundamentals and knowledge and setup is really where you stand out. But it's this all in on hand and wrist. You've added the strength training to really add in that strength element to your training in the last probably a year, I would say. Yeah. Would you say Jordan is very similar in terms of his hand and wrist?
Yeah, Jordan is very hand and wrist. Like he's as good as I am in terms of his awareness of what's going on in the sport. I don't doubt that for a second. He's got a different set of tools. He's got a really long hand, so he uses even more technical based arm wrestling than I do, as opposed to the power. Interestingly, I like if a criticism of Jordan's game is he's still being too stubborn on the hand and wrist. He's still all in purely on the hand and wrist, and Jordan, I think, will break out of his current level into a new level when he goes and adds some foundation strength behind it, because his hand is phenomenal. If Jordan had a 50-kilo bicep curl as well as the hand he's got, then man, we're in trouble. But he doesn't. That's the problem. His arm the chain beyond his hand is still very vulnerable. But his hand control and his ability to deny other people's access to their strength is really top level.
So obviously the guys there at Arm Gods, big fans of Ryan Bowen, saying that you're standing up to the tyrants of the sport. I can only guess that that's referring to a couple of individuals there, and that you always speak out and speak truthfully, and that you've got a big pair. So obviously not been negatively affected by any PED use. So the pair are still fulsome and appropriately proportioned. So
yeah, good way to wrap it up. Tie it all back in. It's
the theme of the podcast.
Lovely compliments for Ryan, and what a guy, and also Jordan the Reach Around Davis.
That's got to be the best nickname in arm wrestling.
And may remain his nickname for as long as he doesn't appear on the AWE. It will be the Reach Around. So yeah. So that brings us to the conclusion of this marathon podcast. We're now nearly 2 hours and 40 minutes in. We want to thank everybody who's dropped in and all those people that have made comments. Of course, we want to thank Ryan Lou Bowen for making his way on screen and sharing some of his valuable time with us, all ahead of his clash with Mazahir Saidu at AWE 3. And of course, other big matchups that have been announced this week. You can, of course, check out more of that on the AWE Facebook page, on the Instagram page, where we've now reached over 38,000 people in the last 30 days. And I'm sure if you're one of those 38,000 and you haven't followed the page, please do that. It really helps us out. Same with the YouTube, of course, as well. So if you're enjoying the channel and you've been dropping in on the chats, please make sure that you like and subscribe. Of course, you know how that all works with the algorithm. It certainly helps us out. And we want to crack that 1,000 subs by the end of the month, and without your support that simply is not possible. Same with all the things that happen around here at AWE. It's very, very dependent on how much you guys love it. So we're genuinely trying to bring you a product that you do love. So
if we get that 1,000 mark, you will fight a bear. Is that what you said?
No, there was no talk of that. There was no,
I swear you said that.
No, I'd like to fight a bear.
Oh.
I would like to.
Is that part of the documentary?
I don't want to actually fight a bear. I want to play with the bear.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun, because I don't think I'd win a fight against a bear.
It is part of the documentary, though. That is the coach Ray and Giannis, and now they've gone to
I didn't know it's bear themed.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah,
I didn't know that. Yeah.
1,000 subs and Dave will fight a bear.
Yep. There we go. And to our sponsors, Roll Clean Soaps. Of course, we've got our friends at Bunster's Hot Sauce, and of course, Barbell Meats, where if you head over to Barbell Foods, I should say, and grab yourself some tasty biltong, of course, whack in that code word arm wrestle, and you get yourself 10% off some of the yummiest stuff that you can put in your mouth for a snack. Yeah, it's yummy stuff that you can put in your mouth. That's actually what it is. And, of course, you've got the sauce there, the Bunster's Hot Sauce. So thank you so much for joining us on the podcast once again, and we'll look forward to bringing you more next time.
It's like a party in your mouth and everybody.